Seeing this scene, Jiang Renyi, Jiang Rendao, and others all revealed a hint of joy on their faces. He had finally survived this heavenly tribulation. However, after some time had passed, the densely packed tribulation clouds in the sky showed no signs of dispersing. This immediately caused the joy on the faces of Jiang Renyi, Jiang Rendao, and Jiang Anren to gradually stiffen. Could it be? Subconsciously, they all looked up at the sky. Rumble! In the black clouds, a purple lightning bolt suddenly struck towards Jiang Chengxuan's head. The terrifying might made Jiang Renyi, Jiang Rendao, and Jiang Anren change their expressions. Even Shen Ruyan's pupils constricted. This tribulation lightning. She immediately looked towards Jiang Chengxuan in the distance. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan's face also became unprecedentedly serious. He could clearly feel that the power this lightning carried was not something he could withstand, especially since he didn't have a true treasure of his own yet. It seemed that he could only use that thing. Using this tribulation lightning, he might be able to make that thing grow. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan raised his hand. The heaven and earth lightning seed he had obtained from the system was now in his hand. Then he threw the seed directly towards the high sky, into the tribulation lightning. Crackle! At the moment the seed touched the tribulation lightning, a large number of electric arcs suddenly surged on its body. At the same time, the tribulation lightning suddenly seemed to be controlled by some strange force. It began to gravitate towards the seed. Visibly, the size of the tribulation lightning became smaller and smaller. In the end, it was completely absorbed by the seed. Buzz! At this moment, a vigorous vitality suddenly surged out from the seed. Electric arcs jumped around it. Jiang Chengxuan could clearly feel that as long as he planted this seed now, it would immediately grow into a spiritual root. Moreover, it was definitely a spiritual root of a high grade. Most importantly, with the seed absorbing this wave of tribulation lightning, the dense tribulation clouds in the high sky gradually dispersed. Following that, vast amounts of pure spiritual essence appeared. This was the gift and reward from heaven and earth to those who successfully passed the heavenly tribulation. Bathing in this large amount of pure spiritual essence, Jiang Chengxuan could clearly feel that the injuries he had suffered during the tribulation were rapidly recovering at an extremely fast speed. After he absorbed all of this pure spiritual essence, not only did all the injuries on his body recover, but his cultivation also consolidated in this short period. It wasn't until this moment that Shen Ruyan, who had been closely watching from a distance, let out a long sigh of relief. A beautiful smile finally appeared on her face. At this moment she, along with Jiang Renyi, Jiang Rendao, Jiang Anren, and others, appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan. Looking at him, she suddenly smiled and said, "Husband, congratulations." Jiang Renyi, Jiang Rendao, Jiang Anren, and others all congratulated him one after another. Listening to Shen Ruyan and the others' congratulations, a smile appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's face. He first nodded to Shen Ruyan with a smile. Then he waved his hand. Suddenly many treasures fell into the hands of Jiang Renyi, Jiang Rendao, and Jiang Anren. When he and Shen Ruyan returned to Xunaming Peak together, he began to talk about the gains from his breakthrough during this seclusion. At the same time, he also had some speculations about the last tribulation lightning. He believed that the will of heaven and earth in this world had been weakened and influenced by external forces. To prevent strength that might exceed their control from appearing in this world, external forces restricted the birth of golden cores beyond the supreme grade. Divine grade golden core and zenith nascent soul were naturally within this range. Because under normal circumstances, even if he, Jiang Chengxuan, had to face the 10th tribulation lightning, its power could not be so exaggerated. After all, the heavenly tribulation was only a test for cultivators, not a destruction. Shen Ruyan agreed with Jiang Chengxuan's speculations. She also felt that the prohibition of golden cores above supreme grade in the 9 essences immortal cultivation world should be related to that person from the outer world. At this moment, the couple's hearts felt a little heavy. After a while, Jiang Chengxuan broke the silence. He took out a seed from his body. At this moment, this seed was surrounded by purple lightning and exuded extremely vigorous vitality. Seeing this seed, Shen Ruyan's beautiful eyes lit up. She looked at Jiang Chengxuan and said, "Husband, how do you plan to deal with this seed?" Jiang Chengxuan smiled and said, "I plan to plant it on Xunaming Peak. After all, the spiritual qi on Mount Mystic Tai is nowhere more abundant than on Chunaming Peak. I want to see what kind of spiritual root this seed, which absorbed the power of the 10th tribulation lightning, will grow into after being planted. Having said that, Jiang Chengxuan didn't hesitate. Together with Shen Ruyan, they found a suitable location and immediately planted the seed. Buzz. As soon as the seed was planted, a unique vitality quickly spread in this area. In just a moment, the seed sprouted tender shoot and broke through the soil. Dozens of breaths later, the tender shoot began to grow rapidly. In less than 5 minutes, the tender shoot had turned into a thick branch, extending countless twigs. Both the branch and the twigs emitted a faint purple electric light. Another 5 minutes passed. The seed had transformed into a towering tree that was several dozen feet tall. Its entire body was like purple glass, emitting a dreamlike color. However, its growth did not stop there. About a few hours later, the small seed had already turned into a towering tree that was 50 feet tall. Whether it was the branches or the leaves, they all seemed like purple glass, surrounded by a layer of faint purple electric light. Most importantly, in just this short amount of time, it slowly condensed 3 different shaped fruits. They were enveloped in purple light, and in the center there was a different symbol carved on each of them, representing heaven, earth, and human respectively. At the same time, the spiritual chi on the entire Mount Mystic Tai surged. It increased by more than double on the original basis. All the Jiang family cultivators practicing here could clearly feel that their cultivation efficiency had increased by more than double. This was something that no one had expected. For a moment, the faces of all the Jiang family cultivators were filled with uncontrollable joy. However, the most pleasantly surprised were Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. They looked at the tree that had grown to such a size in a short period of time, and their faces were filled with joy that couldn't be suppressed. The reason was simple. At this moment, they had already recognized what kind of spiritual root this tree, sprouted from the heaven and earth lightning seed, was. This tree was none other than the famous level 5 spiritual root, the 3 realms lightning spirit tree. Especially the 3 fruits, which were heaven lightning fruit, earth lightning fruit, and human lightning fruit, were even more extraordinary. These 3 spiritual fruits had different effects. The heaven lightning fruit allowed cultivators to instantly grasp a level 5 lightning-type divine power. Yes, you read it right. It was grasping a divine power out of thin air without the need for deliberate cultivation or comprehension. Of course, the effect of the heaven lightning fruit was not limited to this. It could also serve as a spiritual object for cultivating or improving one's own lightning-type divine power. It depended on how you wanted to use it. As for the earth lightning fruit, it could transform into a level 5 lightning-type true treasure out of thin air. Yes, it could directly transform into a level 5 lightning-type true treasure without the need for deliberate refinement. The only problem was that the level 5 lightning-type true treasure transformed by the earth lightning fruit was full of randomness. The level 5 lightning-type true treasure it ultimately transformed into might not be what you needed. As for the human lightning fruit, it could be transformed into a human lightning pill. It could help cultivators who primarily cultivated lightning-type techniques to instantly increase their cultivation by 300 years. Moreover, it also had the effect of aiding breakthroughs. And with no side effects. It was a truly rare lightning-type elixir. The only problem was that to condense these 3 fruits representing heaven, earth, and human on the 3 realms lightning spirit tree, it would take a full 800 years. These 3 fruits would be of great help to them, especially Shen Ruyan. No one was more suitable for these 3 fruits than her. Moreover, as long as she cultivated under the 3 realms lightning spirit tree or around it in the future, her cultivation improvement, advancement in divine powers, and comprehension would all receive considerable assistance. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan plucked the 3 fruits and handed them over to Shen Ruyan with a smile. Wife, these 3 fruits are more suitable for you than anyone else. Take them. Looking at the 3 fruits that Jiang Chengxuan handed over, Shen Ruyan shook her head. Husband, they are equally useful to you. Why don't we? Don't decline. Without waiting for Shen Ruyan to finish her sentence, Jiang Chengxuan had already stuffed all 3 fruits into Shen Ruyan's hands. Then, he smiled and continued. For me, having one more lightning-type divine power or lightning-type true treasure is not a significant improvement. At most, it enriches my offensive methods. Compared to that, I might as well study a few more level 5 element spells. But for you, they are something that can truly rapidly enhance your strength. If you don't take them, wouldn't it be a waste? Although she knew that everything Jiang Chengxuan said was true, at this moment, Shen Ruyan's heart was still filled with gratitude. She looked at Jiang Chengxuan and suddenly smiled, saying, "In that case, I won't be polite with you, husband. By the way, we've been together for hundreds of years. Since we've both entered the nascent soul realm, why don't we?" As she spoke, Shen Ruyan's face suddenly turned red. But in the end, she still looked at Jiang Chengxuan and said with a very determined tone, "Dual cultivate." In the past, the two of them refrained from dual cultivation in order to lay a solid foundation and not lose their yin and yang too quickly. Now, both of them have broken through to nascent soul. Their cultivation foundations are already solid and firm. At this point, if they engaged in dual cultivation, it would not only not harm their cultivation, but would also have a mutually beneficial effect. Especially for the first time, it would bring tremendous benefits to their cultivation. Hearing Shen Ruyan's words at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan's heart couldn't help but beat rapidly. After hundreds of years of being together, it was impossible to say that he hadn't had any thoughts in that aspect towards Shen Ruyan. But for the sake of establishing a solid cultivation foundation and walking further together in the future, even if he sometimes had such thoughts, he forcefully restrained them. After all, whether it was him or Shen Ruyan, they were clearly not the kind of people who sought momentary pleasure. What they sought was immortality, together in an eternal sense. In the face of such goals, the momentary pleasure was insignificant. At this moment, since the opportunity for dual cultivation had arrived and everything was ready, Jiang Chengxuan naturally wouldn't deliberately suppress it and wouldn't let Shen Ruyan down. Soon the couple entered Jiang Chengxuan's cave abode. Time flew by. It was already several dozen days later. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had completed their dual cultivation. The cultivation of both of them had been significantly improved. In just a few dozen days, Jiang Chengxuan's cultivation had unexpectedly broken through from the first level to the peak of second level. As for Shen Ruyan, her progress was even more astonishing. She directly broke through from the peak of the first level to the third level. It's worth noting that this was only in a matter of a few dozen days. Such a significant improvement in their cultivation was almost unheard of. Even with dual cultivation, it was impossible for ordinary cultivators at nascent soul to achieve such results. It's important to note that after breaking through to the nascent soul realm, each subsequent cultivation advancement is typically measured in centuries. Especially for those cultivators who have only condensed a yellow nascent soul, even reaching the peak of the early stage, which is the third level, is not guaranteed even by the end of their lifespan. In other words, without decades of diligent cultivation, breaking through to the next stage is nearly impossible. From this, it could be seen how helpful the dual cultivation was to the couple. At this moment, both Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not rush to leave seclusion. Especially Shen Ruyan. She took out the heaven lightning fruit and earth lightning fruit and turned to Jiang Chengxuan, saying, "Husband, I plan to use these two fruits to enhance my current divine powers and try to obtain a level 5 lightning-type true treasure." Jiang Chengxuan naturally expressed his support for Shen Ruyan's idea, but he still asked with a smile, "Why, don't you plan to use the human lightning fruit to further enhance your cultivation? 300 years of cultivation might allow you to directly break through to the mid-stage." Upon hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Shen Ruyan couldn't help but shake her head with a smile. "Not for now. Currently, my cultivation has not reached the peak of the early stage. Using the human lightning fruit recklessly might be a waste. If possible, I would like to use it at a more appropriate time." Jiang Chengxuan understood this and nodded in agreement. Next, Shen Ruyan began to consume the heaven lightning fruits, intending to gain further insights into her existing lightning-type divine powers. Meanwhile, Jiang Chengxuan took out two level 5 elemental spells he obtained previously to study. These two spells were the Roaring Flame Dragon of the Fire element and the Chaotic Stone's Fall of the Earth element. When mastered to a high level, the Roaring Flame Dragon could summon a dragon, turning the area within dozens or even hundreds of miles into magma. On the other hand, the Chaotic Stone's Fall allowed the summoning of extraterrestrial meteorites to indiscriminately attack enemies, making it a formidable Earth element offensive spell. In general, cultivators rarely focused on studying spells after breaking through to nascent soul. This was because the power of spells was often inferior to divine powers. Most of the time, nascent soul cultivators would use level 5 true treasures or level 5 divine powers in battles. They were faster compared to spells that required forming hand seals. In a real life-and-death battle, you couldn't afford to be distracted, even just a second. This was also another important reason why nascent soul cultivators were unwilling to use spells against enemies. Moreover, regardless of whether they used true treasures or divine powers, the consumption of dharmic power was almost the same. In this situation, spells seemed somewhat redundant. However, for Jiang Chengxuan, who possessed the yin-yang divine water jade, an intrinsic dharma treasure, and passive divine power with instant casting, the situation was different, especially in the future when he upgraded the yin-yang divine water jade to level 5. The more level 5 elemental spells mastered, the greater his combat strength would be. Imagine if he could master more than 10 level 5 elemental spells, what kind of scene would unfold when unleashing them all at once in battle? Even though the power of spells might be slightly weaker than divine powers, releasing more than 10 level 5 spells at once would undoubtedly be destructive. In other words, even if it was the same spell, if it could be cast continuously and instantly, the power could not be underestimated. So, for Jiang Chengxuan at present, mastering the corresponding 5 elemental spells seemed to be an inevitable trend. Just like that, over half a year had passed. Leveraging his yin-yang 5 elements root and the system's reward in talent, Jiang Chengxuan had already mastered the 2 level 5 elemental spells to an extremely advanced level. At this point, he could instantly unleash more than 70% of the power of these 2 spells with a mere thought. Looking at Shen Ruyan, who was still in seclusion not far away, Jiang Chengxuan did not linger in the cave abode for too long. He got up and left. Outside, Jiang Chengxuan began to contemplate what he should do next. Firstly, he needed to upgrade his dharma treasures. For example, the golden void sword, the deep earth halberd, the yin-yang divine water jade, and the dual polarity divine mountain had to be raised to level 5. Although the first 3 dharma treasures were his intrinsic dharma treasures, and they could slowly reach level 5 through the nourishment of his dharmic power alone, without using any spiritual items, this process would likely take a considerable amount of time. Jiang Chengxuan did not intend to do that. If possible, he wanted to gather the relevant materials and try his best to raise his dharma treasures to level 5 as soon as possible. This included another dharma treasure with a fire attribute that he had not yet refined, the eternal blazing sun furnace. The collection of information about the eternal sky crystal should also be expedited. Next is the collection of level 5 element spells. Like searching for those materials, he needed the Jiang family to investigate information for him. When there was concrete information, either he or Shen Ruyan would personally take action. Apart from these, there was also the matter of the protective array. When the time was right, he also needed to consider upgrading the current mountain protection array to level 5. After sorting out all these matters in his mind, Jiang Chengxuan was just about to assign these tasks to Jiang Reni when Shen Ruyan, who had been in seclusion, suddenly appeared behind him. This made Jiang Chengxuan's expression instantly joyful. He turned his head and smiled. "Wife, you've come out of seclusion. How was it? What did you gain?" "Yes, the gains are not bad." Shen Ruyan smiled and nodded at Jiang Chengxuan, then raised her hand. A large umbrella, emitting a purple electric light all over, appeared in Shen Ruyan's hand. What is this?" Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed. He saw Shen Ruyan smiling and nodding again, saying, "This is level 5 lightning-type true treasure formed using the earth lightning fruit, named the Thundercloud Electric Umbrella. It is a true treasure that combines defense and attack." According to Shen Ruyan, when this Thundercloud Electric Umbrella was fully activated, it could erupt with extremely powerful thunderous energy. It could be used to defend against attacks and could transform into a formidable purple thunderbolt for offensive purposes. In addition, the consumption of the heaven lightning fruit yielded even greater gains. It not only enhanced her existing divine power, the 5 elements divine lightning, by several degrees, but also elevated the power of her thunder spirit true body to another level. Moreover, she also comprehended a new lightning-type divine power named the 7-star thunder god spear. By using the power of the 7 stars in the sky, she could transform it into a thunder spear. It was currently her strongest offensive means besides the 5 elements: divine lightning, thunder spirit, true body, and the true lightning. Divine seal. It was not an exaggeration to say that the 2 fruits almost raised Shen Ruyan's overall strength by several levels. As expected of fruits that only appeared every 800 years, its effects were truly extraordinary. While the couple was communicating, a communication talisman from the family leader, Jiang Reni, suddenly fell into Jiang Chengxuan's hands. After looking at the message, Jiang Chengxuan smiled and said to Shen Ruyan, "People from various sects have arrived. They want to congratulate us on advancing to nascent soul. Let's go and see them together." Upon hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Shen Ruyan nodded. Soon, the couple arrived together in the meeting hall of the Jiang family. At this moment in the hall, almost all the high-level figures of the Kangnan Alliance had gathered here. In fact, since the day they felt Shen Ruyan advanced to nascent soul, they had wanted to come here to congratulate her. However, at that time, neither Jiang Chengxuan nor Shen Ruyan had time to receive them. Therefore, this matter had been delayed until now. At this moment, when everyone saw the 2 nascent soul perfected lords, each and every one of them respectfully bowed and said, "Greetings, perfected lords. Congratulations on condensing a nascent soul. From now on, immortality is within your reach. Thank you for your kind words." Jiang Chengxuan smiled and raised his hand, lightly helping the bowing people. Up. In an instant, everyone present felt a very gentle but irresistible dharmic power falling on them, making them involuntarily straighten their bodies. They were somewhat shocked. Especially those cultivators who encountered perfected lords for the first time were even more astonished. Is this the strength that nascent soul perfected lords possess? Simply unfathomable. Following that, they immediately presented their congratulatory gifts. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan naturally would not refuse. Even though the gifts sent by them had no use to the current Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, the couple wouldn't decline their good intention. When all the gifts were given, Hu Dambai from the Jade Water Sword Pavilion took the lead in speaking. "Perfected lords, now that you have reached nascent soul, it is truly a great thing for our entire Kangnan region and also a great thing for the Kangnan Alliance. However, forgive me for being bold to suggest. In my humble opinion, since we now have you too, it is not suitable to continue as an alliance." When these words were spoken, the expressions of some people present immediately changed. Obviously, they were not entirely sure what he meant. Even Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but glance at each other, revealing a hint of interest in their eyes. At this moment, Hu Dambai continued, "In my humble opinion, now that we have 2 seniors in the Kangnan region, I suggest establishing a state." Boom! As soon as he said this, the faces of everyone present changed, one after another. Many people started looking at each other and whispering among each other. Apparently, they did not expect that pavilion master who would propose such a matter to the couple. Establishing a state was an extremely significant matter. Once established, it meant, as Hu Dambai expressed, that the entire Kangnan region would truly be united as one, rather than just being loosely united as an alliance. All the people present would have to genuinely consider Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan as their masters unconditionally. If in the past, the Kangnan Alliance was still a relatively loose organization, then once the state was established, the entire Kangnan region would truly form a complete and unified territory. When outsiders mentioned it, it would no longer be called an alliance, but rather a certain state, just like the state of Yu, the state of Kang, and the state of Hai. Moreover, for Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and even their entire Jiang family, establishing a state had an advantage that they couldn't ignore. That advantage was the heavenly opportunity. By consolidating the previously scattered Kangnan region into one, it would undoubtedly attract a large amount of heavenly opportunity. In the future, as long as the integrated southern region developed better, the more people there were and the more prosperous it was, the more heavenly opportunities would descend. This was something that any cultivator aspiring for immortality and ascension could not ignore or give up. In other words, from the moment Hu Dambai proposed it, this matter was already decided. To put it even more bluntly, even if Hu Dambai didn't bring it up today, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan would undoubtedly not allow the current situation to continue. They were definitely going to establish a state. At this moment, Many cultivators present couldn't help but look at Hu Dongbai with envy and jealousy. Why was it him who said those words just now, and not themselves? They regretted it terribly. Emperor's attack. As everyone on the scene was secretly envying and jealous of Hu Dongbai, Zheng Pelong, who was among the crowd, nodded in agreement. I think what Master Hu said makes sense. I urge the two true lords to seriously consider the matter of establishing a state, he said. At this, everyone present, no matter who they were, could no longer remain calm. They each spoke up, all expressing agreement with Hu Dongbai's suggestion, advising Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan to pick a date for the state-establishing ceremony. Things had already come to this point. If they were any slower in their response, they wouldn't get a piece of the cake. How could that be allowed? They must show the two perfected lords their attitude, and let them see that their stance was definitely in support of establishing a state. Jiang Renyi, Jiang Rendo, Jiang Anren, Shen Yuanlong, and others also did not expect that this matter would eventually turn out this way. They couldn't help but look at each other. Then they also spoke to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan in unison. Ancestor, please start establishing a state. For the countless people of the Kangnan region. Establishing a state, while bringing immense fortune and power, also comes with responsibility. Since you can obtain huge benefits from this, you naturally have to pay something in return. And that thing is protection. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan understood this principle. Looking at the crowd, they had already made up their minds. Jiang Chengxuan slowly stood up, gazing at those present and nodded. We already understand your messages. If establishing a state benefits the development of our Kangnan region and better protects our people, then my wife and I agree to your proposal. In a month, I will officially hold the establishment of a state in our Jiang family's Mount Mystic Tai. At that time, please be there. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone present was invigorated. Immediately, everyone bowed and answered loudly. We shall obey. Half a month later, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan appeared on Mount Ether. Beside them were Shen Yuanlong, Jiang Rendo, Jiang Renyi, and the others. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan said, How is it? Are there still demon kings and level 3 demon beasts within 50,000 kilometers of Mount Ether? Since the decision to establish a state, the Jiang family had ordered all demon beasts around Mount Ether to evacuate within half a month. After all, this land used to be the territory of the human race. Now that the Kangnan region was about to establish a state, it was about time to take back the territory that they had lost. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, everyone nodded. 7 days ago, all the demon kings and level 3 demon beasts within 50,000 kilometers of Mount Ether had already scurried away. However, Jiang Renyi, the family head, hesitated but eventually spoke to Jiang Chengxuan. According to information from various factions, the nine-tailed civet demon emperor on Mount Jiao has been quite active lately. If I'm not wrong, the demon emperor might be planning to disrupt our state-establishing ceremony. Nine-tailed civet. Jiang Chengxuan narrowed his eyes. If he remembered correctly, this nine-tailed civet and the Black Wind demon emperor he had killed seemed to be the subordinates of the Golden Wolf demon emperor. Did it want to avenge its companion? Or did it want to use this opportunity to intimidate the couple? If it were the Golden Wolf demon emperor, perhaps the couple would be threatened, but this one. Not to be arrogant, but even before breaking through to nascent soul, Jiang Chengxuan was confident he could take nine-tailed civet's life, who was known to be the best at survival. Now there was no need to mention it. If it dared to come, it might end up as a sacrificial offering for their state establishment ceremony. For the remaining half-month, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan stayed at Mount Mystic Tai's Xunaming Peak. Spending their days in meditation and tea drinking, they were quite at ease. In contrast, the cultivators from the Jiang and Shen families were extremely busy with preparations and invitations. The day of the ceremony soon arrived. As dawn broke, streaks of light flew towards Mount Mystic Tai from all directions. In no time, the mountain was crowded with cultivators from all over the region. Emperor's attack too. The gathering included prominent cultivators from the Liang, Yun, and Yan nations. As midday approached, a powerful earthy yellow sword light suddenly streaked across the sky towards Mount Mystic Tai. Its formidable aura was beyond anything a golden core cultivator could emanate, shocking all the cultivators already at Mount Mystic Tai. Who could this mighty figure be? A sense of solemnity spread among everyone. At that moment, two figures appeared before the crowd. They were Jiang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan, the protagonists of this state-establishing ceremony. They watched the approaching sword light with a hint of a smile. Both flew up to greet the light, clasping their fists from afar. "So it is Taoist Earth Walker. You must be travel-worn. We apologize for coming out to receive you sooner." "Halasa." A hearty laugh echoed in the air. As the two sides drew closer, the earthy yellow light dissipated, revealing the familiar figure of Earth Walker. He greeted them with a smile. "I come to convey congratulations on behalf of the Hidden Sword Palace and senior brother Xuan Yang on your state establishing." He then presented a six-sided crystal, emitting an ancient aura. "This is..." Jiang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan's eyes narrowed when they saw Earthwalker's item. Earthwalker nodded. "This is a level 5 Eternal Heaven crystal. I heard your family was seeking information about it. It should be useful to you, so please accept it as my congratulatory gift." This gift was extraordinarily precious, especially since it was precisely what Jiang Changshuan needed most urgently. This was really difficult for him to reject. Jiang Changshuan cupped his fists at Earthwalker with a solemn expression. "Thank you, fellow Taoist Earthwalker and senior Xuan Yang. This item is indeed of great use to us, so we will accept it without reservation." Earthwalker smiled and nodded. He immediately handed the Eternal Heaven crystal to Jiang Changshuan. Jiang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan led Earthwalker to the main seat. On the way, Earthwalker sent a voice transmission to the two of them. He told them that the reason why perfected Lord Xuan Yang did not come personally this time round was to restrain the Golden Wolf Demon Emperor. At the same time, he also reminded Jiang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan that even if the Golden Wolf Demon Emperor couldn't personally come to trouble them, its subordinates might not be as well behaved. He hoped they would be mentally prepared in advance. If anything happened, as the spokesperson of the Hidden Sword Palace and perfected Lord Xuan Yang, he would definitely not stand by and do nothing. The meaning was obvious. Jiang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan felt deeply moved, knowing their achievements wouldn't have been possible without perfected Lord Xuan Yang's overt and covert support. They expressed their gratitude and assured Earthwalker that they could handle any demon emperor barring the Golden Wolf himself. Soon everyone took their seats and the ceremony began. Jiang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan stood up, facing the sacrificial altar, and solemnly recited the oaths. Upon finishing, they soared into the sky and, using the level 5 spiritual vein of Mount Mystic Tai and their dharmic power, began to draw the state-establishing seal in midair. As they traced the outline of the seal, everyone present could clearly feel that, as if guided by an unseen force, a thick divine aura was beginning to converge onto that seal. The entire vast Kangnan region seemed to be subtly trembling. In many places, previously broken or disconnected areas miraculously began to rejoin. Between heaven and earth, it seemed that a magnificent force was rapidly gathering, leaving everyone awestruck. Is this the true might of establishing a state? They wondered, feeling insignificant in the presence of such might. They realized that witnessing such an event would deepen their understanding of the Tao and greatly benefit their cultivation. It felt as if that immense force only needed a gentle press, and the violet palaces and golden cores would be instantly crushed into dust. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Just as the seal was about to be completed, a blinding white light burst forth, and scenes from all over the Kangnan region flashed by. There were scenes of mountains, rivers, plains, marshes, forests, and a myriad of other landscapes. These images transformed into colorful lights converging on the seal, intensifying its brilliance. At this crucial moment, 3 terrifying demonic auras surged from afar, devouring the brightness and darkening the sky in a matter of seconds. Jiang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan's expressions hardened, and the golden core cultivators below showed terror. Unexpectedly, demon beasts had come to interfere. Moreover, judging from the aura, they were obviously 3 demon emperors. Earthwalker stood up from his seat. His expression was grave, as he observed the 3 figures shrouded in thick demonic qi. Amidst the rolling demonic qi, 3 figures were a huge black civet with 9 tails on its back, a green flood dragon that was more than 500 feet long, and a golden eagle with swiring wind around its body. Among the 3 demon emperors, other than 9-tailed civet, who did not have the bloodline of an ancient divine beast, green flood dragon demon emperor and golden winged demon emperor all had the bloodline of an ancient divine beast. Moreover, the cultivation levels of the 2 demon emperors had both reached the mid-stage of level 5, equivalent to mid-stage nascent soul. They were much stronger than nine-tailed civet and the black wind the couple had slaughtered previously. However, even the nine-tailed civet was not an existence that was easy to deal with. It was said that the 9 tails on its back represented its 9 lives. Unless you cut off all 9 tails on its back, it was almost impossible to kill it. They did not expect the Golden Wolf Demon Emperor to think so highly of them. This time, it actually sent out 2 demon emperors with the bloodline of ancient divine beasts, and they were even at the mid-stage of level 5. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. At this moment, Earthwalker's voice transmission suddenly sounded. Fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen, quickly complete the last step of establishing the state. As for the 3 demon emperors, I'll temporarily stop them. Transforming into a yellow sword light, Earthwalker charged towards the demon emperors. Seeing that, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't refuse. Although they did not know Earthwalker's strength very well, however, they knew that Earthwalker was best at defense. With his ability, it shouldn't be a problem for him to stall for a while. The most important thing now was to complete the last step of the state-establishing process. Buzz. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan swiftly formed hand seals. The seal before them, as if drawn by some energy, began to tremble slightly. At that moment, the couple each squeezed out a drop of their essence blood, which then fell into the seal. Boom! The seal suddenly burst out with an extremely brilliant white light. Between heaven and earth, streams of white qi continuously gathered and merged into the seal, making it even more dazzling. Finally, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes sharpened. He clapped his hands together and uttered a single word. Rise. Buzz. In an instant, all the phenomena merged into the seal. The entire seal also transformed into a stream of light in the blink of an eye, falling into the palm of Jiang Chengxuan's hand. Simultaneously, everyone clearly saw the character, Jiang, imprinted on the seal in Jiang Chengxuan's palm. Unprompted, a thought arose in everyone's minds. The state of Jiang Nation. This made them immediately realize that from now on, their original Kangnan region would be completely changed to the state of Jiang. In the entire state of Jiang, there would no longer be Liang Nation, Yun Nation, Yan Nation, and so on. There would be only one nation, and that is Jiang Nation. And Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were now the Lord and Lady of Jiang Nation. Rumble. As Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan completed the final step of the state-establishing ceremony, a surge of energy, like a tidal wave, suddenly rushed into Mount Mystic Tai. In the sky, the shadow of a dragon flashed by. Everyone clearly felt that the land they were in now seemed very different from before. The most important change was that cultivation seemed easier than before. This was the effect of gathered fate energy. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, as the Lord and Lady of the land, had the authority to harness this fate energy. However, using it would cause immense depletion to the fate energy of the entire state of Jiang and its people. It wouldn't be used lightly unless absolutely necessary. At the same time, Earthwalker, who had gone to stop the 3 demon emperors, was clearly at an absolute disadvantage. This did not mean that he was not strong enough. It was just that the 3 demon emperors were not to be underestimated. Especially the green floor dragon and golden, winged eagle demon emperors. Both demons not only possessed ancient divine beast bloodlines, but their cultivation had also reached the mid-stage of level 5, almost on par with Earthwalker. With the 9-tailed civet occasionally launching surprise attacks, it was difficult for Earthwalker to withstand their combined assault. Boom! Suddenly, the green flood dragon spewed out a dragon-shaped flying sword from its mouth. This was its intrinsic treasure, forged from its own dragon bones and various precious level 5 materials, named the Green Wave Sword. As soon as this sword appeared, it erupted with an extremely ferocious sharpness. There was a series of sizzling sounds. The defensive sword array set up by Earthwalker's intrinsic flying sword, Deep Earth Sword, actually showed signs of breaking. In addition, golden-winged eagle and 9-tailed civet seized the opportunity to attack continuously, causing cracks to appear on the surface of the sword array. Earthwalker's eyes narrowed into a dangerous glint. Just as he was about to use one of his trump cards, a dazzling 5-colored thunderous sword light suddenly struck the Green Wave Sword. Boom! The terrifying power of lightning instantly dispersed the sword light of the Green Wave Sword. Then the sword light swept across the sky. There was a swish. It actually sent the green wave sword flying 100 miles away. What? This sudden turn of events startled the green flood dragon. Nine-tailed civet and golden-winged eagle also showed solemn expressions as they looked ahead. There, having completed the state-establishing ceremony, were Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, appearing before the demon emperors. The three demons' expressions soured. Before coming here, they had received instructions from the Golden Wolf Demon Emperor. If possible, they were to disrupt the establishment of the state of Jiang at all cost. At that time, they were full of confidence and repeatedly assured the Golden Wolf Demon Emperor of success. Who would have thought that the Hidden Sword Palace would send Earthwalker to block their path and ruin their plans? Now, it seemed they had to resort to their other plan. That was to combine the power of the three demons and try to kill either Jiang Chengxuan or Shen Ruyan. Killing both would be ideal, but given the current situation, it seemed quite difficult. However, killing one of them, as long as the three demons cooperated properly, should be feasible. Immediately, the three demons bypassed Earthwalker and lunged towards Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Squeak! The golden-winged eagle let out a piercing screech. In the blink of an eye, a golden spear, radiant and sharp, hurtled towards Jiang Chengxuan, aimed directly at his brow. Its terrifying force twisted the very air into spiraling vortexes, an ominous prelude to destruction. Accompanied by a thunderous roar, the green flood dragon and the nine-tailed civet joined the fray. The flood dragon produced a round bead, entirely emerald green, that suddenly emitted strands of green light, enveloping Jiang Chengxuan. This green light had the effect of solidifying the dharmic power of a nascent soul cultivator. As long as one was enveloped, even a mid-stage nascent soul cultivator would have their dharmic power stagnate for a period of time. Ding-dang-dang. There was a crisp sound. Simultaneously, with a delicate tinkle, the nine-tailed demon emperor revealed a string of colorful bells. These were no ordinary bells. Their sound, like a bewitching melody, assaulted Jiang Chengxuan's consciousness, threatening to overwhelm his senses. Earthwalker, observing from a distance, felt a momentary dizziness from the bell's resonance. He realized with a start that if this disorienting effect was so strong on him, what would be the plight of Jiang Chengxuan, the direct target of this sonic assault? Not to mention that the bell was not the only thing that was threatening Jiang Chengxuan. Boom! At this moment, the golden spear shot out by the golden-winged eagle suddenly pierced straight towards Jiang Chengxuan, leaving a trail of dazzling golden flame in the sky. The three demons were delighted. But then, in the heart of the radiant inferno, an astonishing scene unfolded. Jiang Chengxuan, with an aura fierce and unyielding, caught the golden spear with his bare hands. His stature soared, growing to an imposing 30 feet, exuding an aura of indomitable strength. No matter how the spear vibrated and struggled, it could not advance an inch further. How is that possible? Disbelief colored the eyes of the three demons. The golden spear was no ordinary weapon. It was a mid-grade level 5 true treasure, its sharpness feared even by its wielder. Not to mention, there were also the attacks of the green flood dragon and nine-tailed civet. The former could restrict a cultivator's dharmic power, while the latter could disrupt a cultivator's primordial spirit. Yet in front of Jiang Chengxuan, their combined attacks seemed utterly ineffective. Indeed, Jiang Chengxuan was relying purely on his physical strength, having activated his infinite wheel and dragon and elephant divine power. Therefore, the restraining effect of their attack was naturally rendered useless against him. The bewitching bell sounds, designed to disrupt the primordial spirit, dissipated into nothingness against the protective radiance of the vast heaven divine Jade that was kept in his sea of consciousness. Coupled with the enhancement of his demon-slaying talent, it caused the three demons, seemingly invulnerable attacks to become so weak. Boom! Jiang Chengxuan's figure grew even more towering, now reaching 50 feet. With a swift motion, he hurled the golden spear back at its owner, who caught it with a claw. Buzz! Wife and fellow Taoist Earthwalker, I'll have to trouble you to help me stop the green flood dragon and golden-winged eagle. Today, I shall use the blood of a level 5 demon emperor to commemorate the founding of Jiang Nation. Jiang Chengxuan's voice rang out with determination. Hearing his words, Earthwalker immediately agreed. If fellow Taoist Jiang wishes so, I will gladly assist. With that said, Earthwalker's body flashed with an earthen yellow sword light as he faced the green flood dragon head-on. Shen Ruyan smiled. She suddenly turned into a bolt of lightning and charged at golden-winged eagle, who was high in the sky. Both demon emperors, caught off guard by this sudden turn, barely had time to react before Jiang Chengxuan appeared before the nine-tailed civet with an astonishing speed. You? Nine-tailed civet was immediately alarmed. It did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to be so fast. Before it could even react, he had already appeared in front of it. Nine-tailed civet immediately roared. Following that, its initially small body suddenly expanded. In an instant it turned into a size of 300 feet. Its 9 tails danced in the air, whipping out a terrifying howl that could make anyone's heart tremble. A silver flying sword suddenly shot out from one of its tails, aiming directly at the center of Jiang Chengxuan's forehead. Want to kill me? Let me see what you're capable of. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just as it finished speaking, 8 Dharma treasures of different shapes flew out from its other 8 tails. Axe, tomahawk, hook, fork, knife, spear, sword, and halberd. Although these 8 Dharma treasures had not reached the level of a true treasure, they were all at the peak of level 4. One of the silver flying swords was a level 5 true treasure. A cold smile flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's lips. Is this all you have? If that's the case, be prepared to die. Boom! At this moment, a flame dragon roaring and soaring in the high sky startlingly appeared in the pupils of the nine-tailed civet. This is a level 5 spell. Before it could recover from this scene, swiftly, in the sky above, numerous gigantic earthen yellow meteorites, imbued with an endless aura of destruction, thunderously fell towards its location. Roar, roar, roar. After this, 3 consecutive loud roars sounded in the sky. They were actually 3 flaming dragons. How is this possible? The nine-tailed civet was somewhat dumbfounded. He released 5 level 5 spells in a row. Moreover, from the looks of it, they were all cast instantly. How did he do it? Could it be that he had already cultivated those 2 level 5 spells to perfection? But how is that possible? How long had it been since he broke through to the nascent soul? How could he have so much time to cultivate 2 level 5 spells to perfection? In fact, nine-tailed civet wasn't the only one who was dumbfounded. Even green flood dragon, golden-winged eagle, and earthwalker were stunned. To be honest, it was really rare to see a level 5 spell cast instantly. At least until now, the number of people they had seen who could instantly cast a level 5 spell could be counted on one hand. However, those people all had something in common. Their cultivation had already reached a rather high level. They were definitely not like Jiang Chengxuan, who had cultivated that level 5 spell to perfection not long after breaking through to nascent soul. How heaven-defying was this person to be able to do this? Rumble! In that moment, 4 flame dragons along with countless meteorites from beyond the heavens knocked away all 9 of the dharmic treasures summoned by the nine-tailed civet. The remaining force, unreservedly, surged towards the civet. Meow! The hair on nine-tailed civet's body stood on end. Its body swayed rapidly. Vaguely, it began to turn illusory. This was its innate divine power, the shadow escape. Once used, it was very difficult for the opponent's attack to land on its true body. It was an extremely powerful life-saving divine power. However, at this moment, 2 blazing flames suddenly appeared in Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. It was his primordial spirit attack technique, Burning Sun Arrow. 5 Eternal Sun Furnace. At this moment, a blazing, invisible arrow suddenly materialized in the primordial spirit of the nine-tailed civet. The form of the civet, which had just become ethereal, solidified abruptly. From its 7 orifices flowed scorching blood, igniting fierce flames upon touching the ground. Simultaneously, Jiang Chengxuan's unleashed spells, the roaring flame dragon and the chaotic stone's fall, bombarded its physical form relentlessly. The nine-tailed civet, already grievously wounded at the primordial spirit level, stood no chance against such destructive level 5 spells. In an instant, its colossal body was blasted to smithereens. Spectators in the distance couldn't help but reveal a trace of joy on their faces. Jiang Chengxuan had actually slain a demon emperor. Yet there was no trace of triumph on Jiang Chengxuan's face. His gaze suddenly shifted to a spot not far from him. There, the supposedly fallen nine-tailed civet was reconstituting its form. However, of its 9 tails, only 8 remained. The aura of an early-stage level 5 had diminished significantly. How come? Confusion spread among the distant onlookers. At this moment, someone suddenly said, As the legend goes, cats have 9 lives. The nine-tailed civet is a feline demon. If I'm not mistaken, to truly kill it, it might need to be slain 9 times in succession. 9 times in succession. The crowd was stunned upon hearing this. Slay a demon emperor 9 times in a row. Was this a joke? The opponent was not just any ordinary creature, but a level 5 demon emperor, akin to a nascent soul cultivator in the mortal world. Even if you were stronger than it and even had the ability to kill it 9 times, the civet was not a fool. If it couldn't win, it would surely try to escape. How could it just stand there stupidly and let you kill it 9 times? Seeing its painstakingly cultivated 9 tails reduced by 1, the 9-tailed civet, filled with rage, realized the vast power gap between itself and Jiang Chengxuan. It was no match for him. Continuing the fight would only result in losing all its tails and true demise. With this in mind, the 9-tailed civet chose not to entangle with Jiang Chengxuan any longer. It turned into a blur, opting for escape. Upon seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan let out a cold smirk. Whoosh! Behind him, a massive rock phantom flickered. The 9-tailed civet, having fled a considerable distance, was caught up by Jiang Chengxuan in an instant. Boom! A massive, earth-shattering punch landed squarely on the 9-tailed civet. With a loud crash, its body was shattered once again by Jiang Chengxuan. Crack! In that split second, a piercingly bright sword light flashed in the air where the 9-tailed civet's body disintegrated. Accompanying the sword light was a scream from the civet. When its body condensed again, there were only 3 tails left. Yes, you read that right. Now, the 9-tailed civet had only 3 tails left, and its aura plummeted to fresh level 5. Fear filled its heart. Why? Why was its strongest life-saving, innate divine power broken so easily? Just 3 attacks had taken its 6 tails. At this point, the 9-tailed civet had no doubt that if Jiang Chengxuan killed it one more time, it would truly die, with no chance of revival. Save me. It flew in the direction of Green Flood Dragon and Golden-Winged Eagle in an attempt to seek their help. In fact, Green Flood Dragon and Golden-Winged Eagle had long sensed 9-tailed civet's predicament. However, the 2 demon emperors were entangled by Shen Ruyan and Earthwalker. They could not spare the time to help 9-tailed civet. In particular, Golden-Winged Eagle, who was facing Shen Ruyan, felt immense pressure. Under such circumstances, not to mention helping the 9-tailed civet, it was already very good that they could ensure their own safety. Seeing 9-tailed civet fly towards Green Flood Dragon and Golden-Winged Eagle, Jiang Chengxuan sneered. At this point, do you think you can still escape? I just said that today. I will use the blood of a level 5 demon emperor to celebrate the establishment of the state of Jiang and Jiang Nation. You can't escape no matter what. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Chengxuan's figure flashed. With the speed of the rock, not to mention 9-tailed civet even, Golden-Winged Eagle could not be faster than him. So, before you know it, Jiang Chengxuan had stealthily positioned himself right behind the 9-tailed civet. This immediately shocked 9-tailed civet. It let out a shrill cry. Jiang Chengxuan, if you dare kill me, Golden Wolf will never forgive you. Threatening me with Golden Wolf at this point, a cold glint flashed in Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. Without a moment's hesitation, the phantom images of a dragon and an elephant flickered behind him. A terrifying power erupted from his being. In the sky, a fist as large as a mountain appeared out of nowhere, carrying a terrifying momentum that threatened to obliterate everything, and it plummeted fiercely towards the civet. Roar! Realizing the imminent danger, the 9-tailed civet fought back desperately. It began burning its demon core, causing its body to expand rapidly. 300 feet, 400 feet, 500 feet, 600 feet, 800 feet. Its massive body, now 800 feet tall, opened its mouth wide as if wanting to swallow the gigantic fist. Boom! The world changed color. Everyone witnessing this scene was left dumbstruck, eyes wide with shock. High above, the mountain-like fist smashed directly into the mouth of the demon. Finally, with a thunderous crash, the fist pierced through the demon's chest, emerging from its back. Whoosh! Like a shattered mirror, the civet, as large as a mountain, disintegrated into countless flickering light particles and vanished. Rumble! It was only after a long while that a series of earth-shaking rumbles reached the ears of the onlookers. The ground beneath their feet trembled. In the distance, dozens of mountains, affected by the aftermath of the collision, exploded into dust and scattered into the air. Swoosh, swoosh! Simultaneously, the golden-winged eagle and green flood dragon, entangled battle with Shen Ruyan and Earthwalker, didn't hesitate for a second and fled frantically. You gotta be kidding me, they thought. Nine-tailed civet was really killed by Jiang Chengxuan. One had to know that the civet was best at preserving its life. With it dead, how could the other two continue to fight? In their battle against Shen Ruyan and Earthwalker, they hadn't gained any upper hand. Now with Jiang Chengxuan, a monstrously powerful being, joining the fray, the two demon emperors might very well meet the same fate. Run, they must run. As the two demon emperors sped away, Shen Ruyan let out a cold snort. In the next moment, terrifying thunderbolts gathered in her jade-like hand. Above the sky, 7 beams of starlight fell instantaneously. These 7 beams of starlight merged with the thunderbolts, ultimately forming a thunderous spear, several feet long in her hand. Craggle, craggle, craggle. With a flick of her wrist, Shen Ruyan released the spear. There was a buzz. The spear transformed into a lightning afterimage, leaving a trail of char marks in the sky. Arg! At the same time, a scream from golden-winged eagle echoed through the sky, followed by a downpour of golden blood. However, though barely surviving this attack, golden-winged eagle still managed to escape with the help of green dragon flood. Earthwalker, observing from a short distance, was inwardly shocked. It seemed Shen Ruyan hadn't been using her full strength. He had a strong premonition that if Shen Ruyan truly exerted her full strength, both of the demon emperors would meet their fate today. No wonder his senior brother, perfected Lord Xuanyang, held this couple in such high esteem. Perhaps in the not-too-distant future, there may be 2 more grand cultivator-level existence in their northern border. The so-called grand cultivator referred to the late-stage nascent soul realm. At such a level, one could easily overpower and even effortlessly kill mid-stage nascent soul cultivators. The disparity between the early stage and mid-stage of nascent soul might still be manageable, but the gap between the late stage and the former two was worlds apart. Although they were still in the same realm, in terms of true combat strength, they were no longer on the same level. This was the main reason why Green Flood Dragon, Golden-Winged Eagle and the Nine-Tailed Civet, though all level 5 beings themselves, had to obey Golden Wolf, who was not just any ordinary demon emperor but had reached the late-stage level 5. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Earthwalker had returned to the state-establishing ceremony. After the battle, everyone present felt a deep sense of awe for Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Jiang Chengxuan had declared that he would celebrate the founding of the state of Jiang and Jiang Nation with the blood of a level 5 demon emperor, and he had made good on his word. This is really shocking. Glancing at the crowd, Jiang Chengxuan smiled faintly and announced the continuation of the founding ceremony. He also took this opportunity to lay down several rules, one of which targeted those who practiced robbery and plunder. Unless undiscovered, anyone daring to commit such acts within the Jiang Nation would face severe punishment, far worse than death. This instilled a deep fear in many cultivators present, especially when they recalled how Jiang Chengxuan had dealt with his own family members who committed murder and robbery outside their market town. He had them executed and hung their bodies outside the family gate for a long time. If he could be so ruthless with his own kin, there was no doubt about the seriousness of the rules he had just announced. Anyone caught violating them would surely face a grim fate. As the ceremony finally came to an end, Earthwalker prepared to bid farewell to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Before leaving, he informed them of a nascent soul-level trade fair to be held by Hidden Sword Palace in 10 years. Cultivators from the state of Zhou and its surrounding regions, including nascent soul cultivators, were expected to attend. If the couple needed it, they could go to the Hidden Sword Palace 10 years later to participate in the trade fair. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan expressed their gratitude for the information and promised to attend the trade fair at the Hidden Sword Palace in 10 years if circumstances allowed. After bidding Earthwalker farewell, the couple didn't linger and soon returned to Xunaming Peak on Mount Mystic Tai. Back at Xunaming Peak, Jiang Chengxuan planned to use the Eternal Heaven Crystal given by Earthwalker, the Sun Crystal he had collected, and various other materials to try forging the Eternal Sun Furnace. Before embarking on the creation of this fire attribute intrinsic Dharma treasure, Jiang Chengxuan intended to use the opportunity to observe a weapon master he had obtained from the system to deepen his understanding and gain more experience in artifact refining. His goal was to forge the eternal sun furnace into a level 5 true treasure in one go. So, he needed to further improve his artifact refining skills. This time, he planned not to refine alone, but to invite Shen Ruyan to assist him. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan told Shen Ruyan his plan. Naturally, Shen Ruyan agreed with a smile. After a while, the couple entered Jiang Chengxuan's seclusion cave abode. Upon arriving at his secluded cultivation chamber, Jiang Chengxuan immediately started observing a master refine weapons. This observation was unique in that it harnessed the observer's spirit. Thus, when Jiang Chengxuan came back to the real world, only a moment had passed, but his mastery over artifact refinement had reached a new height. He turned to Shen Ruyan beside him and said with a smile, "Ruyan, let's begin." "Okay," Shen Ruyan responded with a nod. The two then started refining the materials laid out before them, as they had previously discussed. This process lasted for more than half a year. After they had refined the two most crucial materials, the sun crystal and the eternal heaven crystal, another year had passed. They were now at the most critical step in forging the eternal sun furnace, especially for Jiang Chengxuan. He needed to imprint his divine sense and spiritual mark onto the treasure, and use his own essence blood to establish a bond with it, akin to bloodline connection. This is what differentiates an intrinsic Dharma treasure from ordinary ones. Time passed day by day. Even with Shen Ruyan's help, it took several more years for Jiang Chengxuan to complete the final step in refining the eternal sun furnace. On this day, an exceptionally brilliant golden light suddenly erupted within Jiang Chengxuan's cave abode. Pure sun true fire surged out of a gigantic furnace. The terrifying might emanating from the fire could be distinctly felt, capable of incinerating all impurities and serving as the bane of all dark and evil spirits. This was the level 5 intrinsic true treasure, the eternal sun furnace, which Jiang Chengxuan, with Shen Ruyan's assistance, had spent nearly 5 years to successfully refine. This furnace could absorb and store a significant amount of sun true fire, eternal flames, pure yang true fire, and other pure flames. Moreover, it could even advance the grade of various heavenly flames. Even if the attributes of the heavenly flames were not compatible with the eternal sun furnace, it could still be placed into the eternal sun furnace to slowly nurture and improve. Unconsciously, a smile appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's face. With a wave of his hand, he introduced the ruby flame, which was white with red hues, into the eternal sun furnace. Then he cast several spells. The once massive eternal sun furnace began to shrink rapidly, eventually becoming a small furnace the size of a bowl and gently landing in Jiang Chengxuan's palm. Ding! At the same moment, the familiar electronic sound of the system echoed in Jiang Chengxuan's mind. "Congratulations, host, for successfully forging your intrinsic Dharma treasure, the eternal sun furnace, and obtaining the method to forge the what attribute intrinsic true treasure, the Eastern Green Dragon Flag." This Eastern Green Dragon Flag combined defense, array formation, and attack in one. Once forged, it would not only be an extremely powerful defensive treasure, but also capable of instantly trapping, obstructing, and even confusing and attacking enemies. It was the most versatile among all intrinsic Dharma treasures Jiang Chengxuan had so far. However, forging the Eastern Green Dragon Flag was no easy feat. The true dragon divine wood, a necessary material, was exceedingly rare and only preserved within the dragon race, hardly found in the outside world. Unless Jiang Chengxuan encountered some special opportunities, he might have to venture into the dragon lairs, a place even grand masters and heavenly lords dared not tread lightly. Moreover, the refining skill required to forge this treasure needed to be at least at mid-grade level 5, if not high-grade level 5. Jiang Chengxuan still had some distance to cover to reach this level. As he pondered these issues, another notification from the system sounded in his mind. Ding! Congratulations, host, for achieving level 5 artifact refiner accomplishment and obtaining a level 5 refining material, Qi Cloud Iron, and a treasure advancement stone. The former was a decent level 5 refining material, but of little immediate use to Jiang Chengxuan. He considered exchanging it at the upcoming nascent soul trade fair for something he or Shen Ruyan needed. The latter, however, needed no introduction. It could advance any of his current treasures to a level 5 true treasure. After some thought, Jiang Chengxuan decided to use the treasure advancement stone on his golden void sword. Buzz! In an instant, his golden void sword evolved from level 4 to level 5. Seeing this unfold, Shen Ruyan was amazed. She hadn't expected her husband to possess such a miraculous item that could directly advance a Dharma treasure. However, she didn't inquire further and instead brought up another matter with Jiang Chengxuan, the issue concerning the Golden Cloud token they retrieved from the ruins of the Golden Furnace sect. With this token, once their cultivation reached nascent soul, they could return there and undergo further trials. If everything went smoothly, they had a great chance of obtaining the remaining treasure inheritance from the Golden Furnace sect. Jiang Chengxuan certainly hadn't forgotten about this. However, the location of the Golden Furnace sect was in the Nova Waters, a considerable distance from their current location. Even with teleportation arrays along the way, the journey back and forth would take a significant amount of time, not to mention the time they might need to spend at the Golden Furnace sect itself. Consequently, attending the nascent soul trade fair scheduled in 3 to 4 years might become impossible. Why don't we wait until after the nascent soul trade fair to visit the Golden Furnace sect together, my wife? What do you think? Jiang Chengxuan suggested to Shen Ruyan. Shen Ruyan smiled and nodded in agreement. Yes, let's do that. Just as the couple decided on this, they suddenly sensed a significant fluctuation in the spiritual qi atop Mount Mystic Tai. Realizing what this might mean, they immediately left their cave abode. Outside, they indeed saw a massive gathering of spiritual qi over the mountain where Jiang Anren resided, along with a spiritual pressure distinctly different from Violet Palace. Both of them felt a surge of joy. Is Anren about to form her golden core? They wondered. Let's go over and see, they decided and quickly descended upon Jiang Anren's mountain. At this moment, the commotion also attracted the attention of other Jiang family members. Jiang Rendo was the first to arrive. Upon seeing Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, he greeted them respectfully. Greetings, granduncle and grandaunt. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded back. Over the years, Jiang Rendao's cultivation had also approached steadily towards mid-stage golden core. As long as he polished his dharmic power, it should not be difficult to break through to mid-stage golden core in 10 years. Feeling the changes in spiritual qi in Jiang Anren's cave abode, Jiang Rendao couldn't hide his happiness. He looked at Jiang Chengxuan and said, Granduncle, grandaunt, is Aunt Anren about to condense her golden core? As they spoke, more people arrived, including Jiang Reni, Jiang Renquan, and Jiang Yuncheng. Upon seeing Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, they exchanged greetings. Jiang Chengxuan then said, if I'm not mistaken, Anren will successfully form her golden core in 2 years. Let's all go and observe her tribulation. It will be greatly beneficial for your future cultivation and golden core formation. Indeed, Jiang Anren was about to form her golden core, to the surprise and delight of everyone present. Excluding Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, the Jiang family would soon have their second golden core cultivator. Rumble! 2 years later, dark clouds and silver lightning suddenly gathered above the mountain where Jiang Anren resided. Streaks of silver lightning flickered in it. At that moment, the door of her cave abode opened with a bang, and the newly succeeded golden core cultivator, Jiang Anren, appeared before everyone. She first smiled and nodded towards Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan before acknowledging the others. Then she quickly flew out of Mount Mystic Tai. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan immediately led the others to follow Jiang Anren. When she stopped in a void, the tribulation clouds in the sky seemed ready to unleash their fury. With a thunderous roar, a dazzling lightning bolt struck directly at Jiang Anren. Buzz! Jiang Anren rapidly formed spells with her hands, and soon a huge earth elemental shield, formed entirely by dharmic power, appeared above her head. The air was filled with blinding electrical light. Jiang Reni and others, standing relatively closer, couldn't help but shiver. Fortunately, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were there to dissipate the residual effects of the heavenly tribulation. The second tribulation lightning arrived soon after. Jiang Anren continued her spellcasting, forming an even larger earth elemental shield above her. In this way, she successfully blocked the first 4 tribulation lightning. When the 5th tribulation lightning descended, Jiang Anren finally brought out her defensive treasure, a yellow glowing pagoda, which helped her block the next 3 waves. By the 8th one, she summoned her intrinsic dharma treasure, an impressively hefty earth elemental long spear, and easily negated the last two tribulation lightning. With that, Jiang Anren's tribulation was over, bringing relief to everyone, including Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. They knew of Jiang Anren's solid cultivation foundation and her natural advantage in defense due to her earth elemental heavenly spiritual root. Still, there's always a just in case in every certainty. Seeing Jiang Anren successfully overcome her tribulation, their faint worries were finally dispelled. Several hours later, Jiang Anren joined Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan on Xunaming Peak. They learned that her newly formed golden core was of the 8th level, considered a top grade, and having a high chance of forming a nascent soul in the future. However, to reach further heights, she would need to put in more effort and seize greater opportunities. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan offered guidance for her future cultivation, and each gifted her a level 4 protective Dharma treasure. The path ahead would depend on Jiang Anren herself. At the Golden Core realm, there wasn't much more they could offer as mentors, especially if she aimed for greater achievements. Understanding this, Jiang Anren spent nearly 2 years in a brief seclusion on Xunaming Peak. Afterward, she bid farewell to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and left Mount Mystic Tai to explore the outside world. Watching their disciples' departing figure, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan exchanged a look. Ruyan, there's not much time left before the nascent soul trade fair at Hidden Sword Palace. Let's prepare to depart, Jiang Chengxuan suggested. Shen Ruyan nodded. After instructing Jiang Rendao and Shen Yuanlong, the couple transformed into lights and set off towards Hidden Sword Palace in the state of Yu. Hidden Sword Palace, the leading sect of the state of Yu, was located in the extreme west of the region, on Mount Hidden Sword. The mountain, standing 3,000 feet tall, resembled an upside-down sword thrust into the earth, exuding a sense of majestic sharpness. Upon their arrival, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, without being too ostentatious, courteously presented a visiting card to the cultivator guarding the gate. The cultivator, surprised to discover that the visitors were 2 nascent soul-perfected lords, led them to the reception peak of Hidden Sword Palace without delay. After a short while, familiar laughter was heard. Their old acquaintance, Earthwalker, appeared before them, accompanied by a striking female cultivator dressed in black, carrying 2 silver long swords. Her presence alone gave off enormous pressure. Most importantly, her aura indicated she was also a nascent soul-perfected lord. You two must be Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, correct? I am Yan Wushwang, a supreme elder of Hidden Sword Palace, just like senior brother Earthwalker, said the spirited woman, introducing herself to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan before Earthwalker could speak. I have long heard of your feats, particularly how you, as Golden Core cultivators, defeated the level 5 Black Wind Demon Emperor. It's truly an honor to meet you both in person, she said with genuine admiration and courtesy, displaying none of the arrogance one might expect from a top nascent soul force's supreme elder. Her straightforward and unpretentious demeanor quickly endeared her to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who hurriedly returned her formal greetings. Earthwalker chimed in, fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen, junior sister Yan had planned to join me in congratulating you at your state-establishing ceremony. Unfortunately, she was tied up with a nascent soul demonic cultivator appearing in the state of Yu at the time and missed the event. Hearing that you've come to Hidden Sword Palace for the trade fair, she insisted on meeting you both first. After some polite exchanges, Earthwalker and Yan Wushwang led Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan to the location of the trade fair. Arriving at the venue, they found it already bustling with numerous nascent soul cultivators, easily more than a dozen. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not recognize most of them, which wasn't surprising considering their recent advancement to nascent soul. Before this, the number of nascent soul cultivators they had come into contact with could be counted on one hand. Some of them were even their enemies. For example, the nascent souls of the Cow and Lu families. However, the nascent souls of these 2 families did not seem to be present today. Of course, it was also possible that they had not arrived yet. Let me introduce you to some of the cultivators present. Earthwalker and Yan Wushwang communicated with Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan through voice transmission. The couple naturally did not refuse. Earthwalker mentioned the cultivators around him. To your far left is perfected Lord Star Sea from the astral sect of the state of Kang, an expert in the art of star movement. To your right is Taoist Mystic River, an independent cultivator adept in water element divine powers and spells. and directly in front of you is perfected Lord Flowing Snow from the snow sect of the state of Lan, known as the white-haired fairy. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan glanced around and saw the mentioned cultivators. Indeed, perfected Lord Flowing Snow, with her striking white hair, appeared ethereally beautiful yet unapproachable cold. At this moment, under the guidance of Earth Walker and Yan Wuxuang, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan took their seats. Since Earth Walker and Yan Wuxuang had other matters to attend to, they left after advising them on some aspects of the trade fair. Suddenly, perfected Lord Starseed approached them. Wearing a star-patterned robe, he exuded an air of refined elegance. "I am Taoist Starseed, from the astral sect in the state of Kang. I believe this is your first time at Hidden Sword Palace's trade fair. May I know how to address you both?" he said, introducing himself with a smile. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, appreciating perfected Lord Starseed's initiative, introduced themselves. He responded with a nod. "Ah, friends from the state of Jiang, it's a pleasure to meet you." As they conversed, the couple learned that this was perfected Lord Starseed's fourth time attending the trade fair held by Hidden Sword Palace. He had always managed to exchange for items he needed, which raised the couple's expectations for the event. At that moment, another cultivator in blue garments entered. Exuding the spiritual pressure of a mid-stage nascent soul perfected lord, he caught everyone's attention. Perfected Lord Starseed informed them, "That's Pei Daoki, a supreme elder of Mingjin sect in the state of Yu. He's reportedly seeking a spiritual item to break through to the late-stage nascent soul." Mingjin sect's supreme elder, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan took a closer look at him. They recalled encountering two golden core elders, Taoist Guang Chuan and Xiao Liang, from Mingjin sect at a certain ruin in the past. Noticing their gaze, Pei Daoki looked over, instantly exerting an invisible pressure on the couple. A look of disdain flashed across Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's faces. At that moment, both of them simultaneously activated their dharmic power, dissipating the invisible pressure that weighed upon them. This unexpected display of strength surprised Pei Daoki. Soon after, Pei Daoki shifted his attention away from Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and walked to his seat. Who would have thought after all these years, Pei Daoki remains as unreasonable and overbearing as ever, remarked perfected Lord Starseed, his voice reaching Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's ears. This comment led the couple to realize that perfected Lord Starseed must have had his fair share of grievances with Pei Daoki in the past. Subsequently, several other nascent soul perfected lords arrived, none of whom were familiar to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. As time passed, the current head of Hidden Sword Palace, perfected Lord Chuan Yang, arrived with Earth Walker and Yan Wuxuang. Upon his arrival, everyone present respectfully greeted perfected Lord Chuan Yang, who nodded in acknowledgement. When perfected Lord Chuan Yang passed by Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, he smiled and nodded at them, drawing curious glances from many attendees. It was apparent that these two new faces had a surprisingly good relationship with perfected Lord Chuan Yang. Even perfected Lord Starseed couldn't help but look at the couple in a new light. Perfected Lord Chuan Yang, Earth Walker, and Yan Wuxuang then took their seats of honor at the trade fair. Perfected Lord Chuan Yang initiated the proceedings, saying, "Welcome, fellow cultivators. I'm honored to host this nascent soul trade fair at Hidden Sword Palace. Let me start the proceedings." With that, he presented a fist-sized golden fruit. This is the golden sun fruit, beneficial for nascent soul cultivators to strengthen their primordial spirits. I am willing to exchange it for level 5 high-grade refining materials, corresponding breakthrough pills, equivalent spiritual treasures, or high-grade spiritual stones. Generally, after breaking through to nascent soul, cultivators used high-grade spiritual stones as the primary medium of exchange instead of ordinary ones. The attendees were visibly excited, especially those nearing the late stage of nascent soul, or even close to soul formation, who paid special attention to strengthening their primordial spirit. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were also interested, but they knew that with their current resources, acquiring the fruit would be difficult unless they were willing to part with their earth chi, a treasure as rare as the golden sun fruit itself. Once they traded it away, it would not be so easy for them to find it again. Fortunately, they were not in a hurry to improve their primordial spirits, therefore they abstained from the competition. While Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan decided not to compete for the fruit due to its high cost and their current lack of urgency for primordial spirit enhancement, many other nascent soul cultivators eagerly made their offers. However, it was obvious that what everyone took out was not enough to satisfy perfected Lord Chuan Yang until Pei Deaki presented a ping-pong ball-sized, round jade stone. With some reluctance, he said, "This is a level 5 high-grade true Yang jade marrow. Would you consider exchanging the fruit for this, perfected Lord Chuan Yang?" True Yang jade marrow. Recognizing the rarity and value of true Yang jade marrow, everyone's expression changed. Perfected Lord Chuan Yang, aware of its worth, agreed to the exchange. This item could only be born in large-scale precious crystal mines. It was an extremely precious Yang item. "All right, I'll use this golden sun fruit to exchange for the true Yang jade marrow." As he spoke, perfected Lord Chuan Yang had already completed the exchange with Pei Deaki. After their transaction, it was Earthwalker's turn. He took out a jade slip from his body and said to everyone, "I have a level 5 metal element spell called the Golden Divine Light. I want to use it to exchange for a level 5 earth element material or an earth element spell that is also level 5. Yang Chengshuan's heart skipped a beat when he saw what Earthwalker took out. A level 5 metal element spell was what he needed at the moment. He just did not know if Earthwalker had already cultivated the chaotic stone's fall. He might as well give it a try. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengshuan immediately took out the jade slip containing chaotic stone's fall and said to Earthwalker, "Fellow Taoist Earthwalker, I happen to have a level 5 earth element spell called the chaotic stone's fall. I wonder if I can exchange it with you for that level 5 metal element spell, the Golden Divine Light." "Oh, chaotic stone's fall." Hearing Jiang Chengshuan's words, Earthwalker was obviously delighted. Clearly, he had long heard of chaotic stone's fall that Jiang Chengshuan mentioned. He immediately smiled and said to Jiang Chengshuan, "Fellow Taoist Jiang, can you let me take a look at your spell first? Of course, you can also take a look at the Golden Divine Light first." "Of course, there's no problem." Jiang Chengshuan smiled and exchanged jade slips with Earthwalker. The two of them clearly trusted each other. Therefore, when they were exchanging jade slips, there were no restrictions on them. In next to no time, the two of them roughly finished browsing through the contents of the jade slips in their hands. The smile on Earthwalker's face widened. He looked at Jiang Chengshuan and said, "Fellow Taoist Jiang, there's no problem with this spell of yours. I can exchange with you. What do you think?" "Sure." Jiang Chengshuan also smiled and nodded. It was obvious that Jiang Chengshuan was very satisfied with the Golden Divine Light given by Earthwalker. After the exchange, Yan Wushwang took out a silver sword talisman from her body. She said, "This talisman is a level 5 instant kill sword talisman. When used, it's formless and untraceable. It's refined by me. It can be used a total of 3 times." "Huh?" Yang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan were surprised. They really did not expect Yan Wushwang to be a level 5 talisman master. It had to be known that after a talisman master reached level 5, their status was not inferior to that of weapon refiners and alchemists. The main reason was that level 5 talismans were reusable. It was no longer like a level 4 or level 3 talisman that would be scrapped after being used once. Under normal circumstances, a level 5 talisman could be used about 3 times. It was said that some powerful talisman masters could make their talismans last 5 times or even more. Not only that, but they could also imprint their divine powers and spells they cultivated into talismans. When facing an enemy, they only needed to throw out the talisman they made. Not only could it erupt with extremely powerful might, but it could also save a lot of dharmic power consumption. At this moment, Yan Wushwang continued, "I want to use it to exchange for medicinal pills that can increase my cultivation at mid-stage nascent soul, or the refinement method of a mid-grade level 5 talisman." As Yan Wushwang finished speaking, a voice immediately rose from the crowd. "Fairy Yan, I have a jade slip for crafting the fire spirit talisman. Would it interest you for an exchange with your instant kill sword talisman?" Hearing this, Yan Wushwang shook her head and replied, "Apologies, but I already possess the method for crafting the fire spirit talisman." She then looked around at the other attendees. A red-haired man suddenly stood up, taking out a jade bottle and addressing Yan Wushwang. "Fairy Yan, I happen to have an elixir of return that can aid mid-stage nascent soul cultivators in enhancing their cultivation. Would you consider an exchange?" "Elixir of return?" Yan Wushwang's eyes lit up slightly as she responded, "That could work, but fellow Taoist Kairui, may I examine your pill first?" "Of course," replied the red-haired man, known as Taoist Kai Rui, with a smile, handing over the jade bottle to her. Yan Wushwang opened the bottle, confirming that it indeed contained the elixir of return. Without further hesitation, she exchanged her instant kill sword talisman for this pill. Once three perfected Lord of Hidden Sword Palace had exchanged their desired items, it was the turn of other attendees. "Esteemed cultivators, I have a 3,000-year-old level 5 Lingjai called Green Sea Lily. I seek to exchange it for a level 5 true treasure. Is anyone interested?" Taoist Mystic River, an independent cultivator, presented a vibrant green, fragrant Lingjai. This Lingjai could be used to refine a level 5 divine source returning pill for rapid dharmic power recovery. It was a rather good level 5 spiritual plant, coveted by many cultivators present. Soon someone exchanged it with a low-grade level 5 true treasure. Following this, others began to trade various treasures, including perfected Lord Star Sea, who obtained his desired item by exchanging a level 5 spiritual plant. When it was Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's turn, they decided to offer a level 5 demonic core and a piece of Kuihai cloud iron obtained from the system. Jiang Chengxuan announced, "We wish to exchange the level 5 demonic core for a corresponding lightning element spiritual item, and the Kuihai cloud iron for a yin-yang crystal or earth divine iron." Hearing this, the attendees were intrigued. The demonic core was valuable for refining many level 5 pills, and the Kuihai cloud iron was a rare material for refining, especially useful for enhancing water element true treasures. Perfected Lord Star Sea then produced a fist-sized silver stone with honeycomb-like pores on its surface, emitting visible electric arcs, wanting to exchange it for the demonic core. This is a level 5 honeycomb thunder stone, obtained from a level 5 bee queen's nest. Would you consider an exchange? Honeycomb thunder stone. Shen Ruyan's face brightened, and she nodded to Jiang Chengxuan. Immediately after, the two of them exchanged for the honeycomb thunder stone with perfected Lord Star Sea. "Fellow Taoists." At this moment, a white-haired elder in the crowd spoke to the couple. "I have an earth crystal here. I wonder if I can exchange it for that Kuihai cloud iron." "Earth crystal?" Jiang Chengxuan frowned slightly, considering. To be honest, the earth crystal was indeed a rare treasure, effective in improving his intrinsic dharma treasure, the deep earth halberd. However, it was still a little inferior to the earth divine iron he wanted. At that moment, perfected Lord Flowing Snow from the Snow Sect presented a half-black, half-white crystal. She looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and said, "I have the yin-yang crystal you need. I'll exchange it with you for the Kuihai cloud iron." Yin-yang crystal. Jiang Chengxuan was delighted when he saw what perfected Lord Flowing Snow took out. However, the white-haired old man's expression darkened. He did not say anything and only looked deeply at Jiang Chengxuan and perfected Lord Flowing Snow. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Flying Snow, can you let me take a look at the yin-yang crystal in your hand first?" Perfected Lord Flowing Snow hesitated for a moment before nodding. Jiang Chengxuan quickly confirmed that the yin-yang crystal in front of him was what he needed. It could allow his intrinsic dharma treasure, the yin-yang divine water jade, to advance to level 5 true treasure in a short period of time. Therefore, Jiang Chengxuan did not hesitate any longer and immediately completed the exchange with perfected Lord Flowing Snow. It must be said that this trade meet allowed Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan to acquire precisely what they each desired. It was indeed a worthwhile trip. After the entire trade fair concluded, the perfected lords began to leave one after another. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not linger either. After bidding farewell to perfected Lord Chuan Yang, Earth Walker, and Yan Wushwang, they quickly left the territory of the Hidden Sword Palace. The couple, upon leaving the Hidden Sword Palace, did not plan to return to Jiang Nation, but instead decided to venture towards the Nova Waters. They intended to use their Golden Cloud token to try entering the Golden Furnace sect again, hoping to find more opportunities there. However, about 3 days into their journey towards the Nova Waters, they suddenly sensed intense fluctuations of dharmic power not far ahead. On closer inspection, they found 3 perfected lords engaged in fierce combat. Moreover, they recognized all 3 individuals. They were perfected Lord Flowing Snow, the white-haired elder and Taoist Mystic River, whom they had encountered at the trade fair. More precisely, it seemed that the white-haired elder and Mystic River had joined forces against perfected Lord Flowing Snow. What exactly was happening here? Why were these three clashing in this place? And it seemed the white-haired elder and Mystic River were acquainted, despite their pretense of unfamiliarity at the trade fair. There was definitely something amiss. Regardless of the issue, it had nothing to do with Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. They wouldn't foolishly intervene just because they traded with perfected Lord Flowing Snow. Fortunately, the combatants had not noticed their presence. The couple quickly concealed their aura and made themselves invisible, planning to detour around the battlefield. Ki. Just then, the white-haired elder, who was attacking perfected Lord Flowing Snow alongside Mystic River, suddenly let out a scary laugh. His eyes emitted a dark red glow. What is that? Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who were about to detour, were startled by this change, their pupils shrinking slightly. Perfected Lord Flowing Snow's face also changed drastically. Hand Domping, you. With a sinister laugh, the white-haired elder known as Hand Domping suddenly bit off one of his fingers, muttering something under his breath. Then, a bizarre ghostly hand pattern appeared on his forehead, followed by a surge of dark red fog. A demonic hand, as if reaching out from the void, suddenly attacked perfected Lord Flowing Snow. The demonic hand, emitting a fierce, beast-like roar, shattered her ice shield, striking her protective spiritual light and dimming it. Bang! Crack! Simultaneously, Mystic River also displayed a wicked smile. Similarly, he bit off one of his fingers, muttering something, and a similar ghostly hand pattern appeared on his forehead. The dark red fog reappeared, and another demonic hand, matching the first in strength and might, flew out from the fog. With a vicious roar, the second demonic hand struck perfected Lord Flowing Snow's protective spirit light, which could no longer hold up. There was a loud bang. Perfected Lord Flowing Snow's protective spirit light was broken immediately. At the same time, a blue ice flower that looked like a snow lotus suddenly appeared above her head. On the blue ice flower, streams of ice blue light fell. When the demonic hand collided with the ice blue light, the blue light instantly dimmed it. Kai. At the same time, the surface of the blue ice flower on perfected Lord Flowing Snow's head seemed to have been corroded and contaminated. The flawless blue surface was actually dyed with a dark red color. What? Affected Lord Flowing Snow's expression changed once more. Even Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but narrow their eyes. Shen Ruyan suddenly recalled something, her expression turning cold. That's the Ghost Hand demonic sect. Ghost Hand demonic cult. Jiang Chengxuan immediately turned around in confusion. Shen Ruyan nodded. It's a demonic sect from my era, known for the technique of severing the fingers. However, they were eradicated by righteous cultivators in my time. How could they appear now? Boom! Before she could finish, perfected Lord Flowing Snow was blasted hundreds of miles away by the demonic hand, blood raining down from the sky. Ki. Hand Domping and Mystic River let out another sinister laugh and bit off another finger each. They reached out towards the blood spilled from perfected Lord Flowing Snow. Buzz! Instantly, the blood that fell from perfected Lord Flowing Snow gathered in front of them, and the two of them chanted at the same time. After a while, perfected Lord Flowing Snow's face turned pale. Immediately after, she spat out another mouthful of blood. At this moment, his aura suddenly fell by a large amount. Not good, that's a curse technique. Jiang Chengxuan's face changed upon seeing this. Seeing Hand Domping and Mystic River summon two more demonic hands from the dark red fog to attack perfected Lord Flowing Snow, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan realized they could no longer just watch. If it were merely personal grudges, they wouldn't have intervened. But this was clearly two nascent-souled demonic cultivators attempting to harm their fellow cultivator. Whether for the greater good or out of moral duty, they couldn't let Hand Domping and Mystic River kill perfected Lord Flowing Snow. Moreover, there was something extremely important that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not say. When they saw Hand Domping and Mystic River, they instinctively sensed that something was amiss. So without further hesitation, the couple flew towards the battlefield. Clang! Crack! As Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan appeared, they didn't hold back. Jiang Chengxuan took out his level 5 true treasure, the Golden Void Sword, while Shen Ruyan summoned her intrinsic true treasure, the Falling Thunder Seal. Sword light and thunder intertwined, catching Hand Domping and Mystic River completely off guard. They had no idea that two nascent soul perfected lords were hidden nearby. However, soon, Han Domping and the Mystic River seemed to have recognized them. A trace of shock flashed across their eyes, and their expressions could not help but become a little ferocious. "It's you." Boom! As their words fell, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's attack arrived right above their heads, forcing them to defend with their treasures. Bang! Crack! But their treasures were no match for the golden void sword and falling thunder seal. In an instant, the treasures of Han Domping and Xuan Taoist were shattered by Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's powerful attacks. Damn it! Han Domping and Mystic River's faces turned extremely grim. The dark red glow in their eyes deepened, reflecting their rising fury. Crack, crack. With a crackling sound, they both twisted and snapped a finger off each of their hands. Muttering incantations, the severed fingers quickly transformed into a terrifyingly dark red mist. Within this bloody mist, two demonic hands, one red and one green, resembling ghostly claws, suddenly emerged. Simultaneously, Han Domping and Mystic River unleashed two true treasures above their heads, a golden scimitar and a dark green flying sword, which they directed at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. "Be careful," perfected Lord Flowing Snow shouted from a distance. In fact, she did not expect that someone would help her in the midst of her most dangerous situation. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan reached out. The temperature in the surrounding soared as intense firelight instantly painted the sky red. Then everyone saw a lifelike fire dragon burning with layers of flames charged towards the scimitar and sword, as well as the two red and green demonic hands. Han Domping and Mystic River scoffed at the sight. To them, Jiang Chengxuan wanting to use a level 5 fire spell to defeat them seemed too naive. But just as this thought crossed their minds, Jiang Chengxuan raised his hand again, forming another spell. Roar, roar, roar. 3 more dragon roars resounded through the sky, as 3 more fire dragons, each engulfed in flames and resembling true dragons, charged towards their attacks. How is that possible? Han Domping and Mystic River were both taken aback. Why was Jiang Chengxuan able to cast level 5 fire spells so quickly? It was almost instantaneous. Had he mastered this level 5 fire spell to perfection? Just as this thought flashed through their minds, they suddenly noticed the sky above them darkening. Then, with a crackling sound, lightning bolts struck down from above, their might even surpassing Jiang Chengxuan's 4 fire dragons. It's a level 5 lightning element true treasure. This realization left Han Domping and Mystic River dumbfounded. It was well known that lightning element spells were a natural counter to demonic cultivators like them, especially when it was a level 5 lightning element true treasure. Not to mention, there was also the threat of Jiang Chengxuan's 4 fire dragons. Rumble! With a loud rumble, in just an instant, the red and green demonic hands, which Han Domping and Mystic River were so proud of, were obliterated by Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's assault. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Then a lightning spear appeared in Shen Ruyan's hand. Swoosh, swoosh. The lightning spear instantly shot across the sky and struck the two true treasures. A massive mushroom cloud, flickering with endless lightning, erupted in midair, sending true treasures Han Domping and Mystic River had jointly summoned flying back. How is this possible? The two of them were shocked. But before they could react, the sound of a furnace lid being opened echoed near their ears. There was a clang. Their eyes widened in terror as endless golden flames, like a tidal wave, surged towards them. "That's sun true fire." Mystic River couldn't help but exclaim. This kind of flame that originated from extreme yang was simply fatal to demonic cultivators of their level. The two of them did not dare to delay at all. Crag, crag, crag. They snapped all the remaining fingers on their hands, transforming them into an extremely dense dark red mist. One could clearly feel their auras suddenly soar at this moment. However, they did not turn around to fight Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Instead, they transformed into 2 streaks of light and flew into the distance. HMPH, too late to run now. Jiang Chengxuan's back shimmered with the shadow of a giant rock. Before Han Domping and Mystic River could react, Jiang Chengxuan's figure had already blocked their escape path. What? Without giving the two of them a chance to react, the eternal sun furnace in. Jiang Chengxuan's hand suddenly expanded and instantly turned into a huge shadow that enveloped them. Accompanying it was a large amount of true sun fire. At the same time, Shen Ruyan's 5 lightning immortal slayer also turned into rolling lightning striking down upon the two of them. Rumble, boom, fire and lightning intertwined. Neither hand-domping nor mystic river could withstand the onslaught. Their once-proud defenses crumbled like paper, completely annihilated by the fire and thunder. Immediately afterward, two extremely powerful and unyielding yang forces simultaneously struck them, instantly shattering their physical bodies into pieces. Lucky! Two miserable screams echoed in the air. Swoosh, swoosh. Then two dark red lights shot out of the minced body, just as they was about to escape. At this moment, an extremely cold aura suddenly descended. Soon, large snowflakes fell from the sky. In just a moment, the two fleeing nascent soul cultivators, hand-domping and mystic river, slowed down considerably, and eventually they were frozen solid in midair. Affected Lord Flowing Snow appeared, her expression icy. In her hand materialized an ice-blue whip. With a swift crack, the whip struck the two frozen nascent souls, shattering them instantly. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't even have time to intervene or suggest sparing them. Perfected Lord Flowing Snow, having been fiercely attacked by the two earlier, had acted in a rage, swiftly freezing and destroying their nascent souls. Sigh. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could only sigh inwardly. Perfected Lord Flowing Snow then turned to them, her expression somewhat apologetic. I apologize. I was overwhelmed by anger and couldn't hold back, she explained. What else could Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan say? He could only smile and shake his head. There's no need to apologize, perfected Lord Flowing Snow. We initially intended to interrogate them about their background and any potential accomplices. Now that they have been killed by you, so be it, it's nothing. Although perfected Lord Flowing Snow had a cold personality, she was not a fool and was not the kind of person who did not understand the ways of the world. She knew that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan said that out of respect for her. The apology on her face deepened. At the same time, she was even more grateful to the two of them. She said again, no matter what, I owe you both a great debt for your assistance today. Should you ever require my help, do not hesitate to ask. Jiang Chengxuan politely acknowledged her gratitude and then inquired about the backgrounds of hand-domping and mystic river. Perfected Lord Flowing Snow pondered before answering. Hand-domping was the ancestor of the Han family in the state of Kang, and Mystic River was a well-known nascent soul independent cultivator from our northern border. Their characters are unclear to me, but I know they once joined forces with other nascent soul cultivators from the northern border to fight against demon cultivators. At that point, a complex expression crossed her face as she continued. What I never expected was that these two, who once stood against demonic cultivators alongside us, would themselves fall into the demonic path. It's really... At the end, perfected Lord Flowing Snow could not help but shake her head gently. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan exchanged glances. The doubt that the two of them had in their hearts from the start intensified. They then examined the storage rings left behind by hand-domping and Mystic River. After removing all the dharmic power restrictions, they quickly opened the two storage rings. Perfected Lord Flowing Snow watched silently, sensing that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were looking for something more than just loot. She only felt that the couple probably had other motives for choosing to open the two storage rings at this moment. Upon opening the rings, both Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's expressions shifted subtly. In their hands appeared two rainbow jade slips. These are, perfected Lord Flowing Snow expressed her curiosity. But Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked grave. Yang Chengxuan placed one of the jade slips against his forehead. Instantly, the rainbow jade slip turned pitch black, emitting dense demonic qi, trying to invade his sea of consciousness. With a cold snort, Jiang Chengxuan activated the vast heaven divine jade in his sea of consciousness. Kai 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 kai. When the demonic qi was shown on by Jiang Chengxuan's vast heaven divine jade, it was immediately evaporated into nothingness like snow meeting a blazing sun. A roar. Anguished screams emerged from the jade slip. Yang Chengxuan's expression turned cold. He produced a strand of Sun True Fire in his hand, applying it to the now black jade slip. When the Sun True Fire landed on the jade slip that had already turned pitch black, it was like boiling water falling into a pot of oil. The entire jade slip immediately emitted a crackling sound as it was burned violently. At the same time, the roars and screams inside became more and more intense. It made Jiang Chengxuan and the other two feel uncomfortable. Fortunately, this did not last long. In less than a few breaths, the entire jade slip was reduced to ashes by Jiang Chengxuan's true sun fire. When she saw that, shock appeared on perfected Lord Flowing Snow's face. She looked at Jiang Chengxuan and finally couldn't help but say, "Fellow Taoist Jiang, what was that?" Huh? Before she could finish, the rainbow jade slip in Shen Ruyan's hand began to shake violently, as if it was about to escape her control. Shen Ruyan snorted. In the next moment, endless lightning began to dance in her palm. Crackle! A moment later, a scream suddenly sounded from the rainbow jade slip. Then, with a bang, the entire jade slip turned into black powder and dissipated. The three of them looked at each other. Shen Ruyan said, "If I'm not wrong, the reason why Han Dongping and Mystic River fell into the demonic path is probably related to the jade slip in their storage rings. Their minds have probably been completely devoured by the demonic intent in the jade slip." Her voice turned solemn as she added, "What's most concerning is that we were unaware of their demonic nature before they revealed themselves. Even perfected Lord Chuan Yang did not seem to notice it back then." Upon hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan and perfected Lord Flowing Snow clearly realized the seriousness of the problem. Perfected Lord Flowing Snow suddenly thought of something, and her expression changed slightly. Could it be that perfected Lord Ju Li and perfected Lord Shang long fell into the demonic path because of this too? Perfected Lord Ju Li and perfected Lord Shang Long. Hearing perfected Lord Flowing Snow's words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could not help but look at her in confusion. Obviously, the couple didn't know the two people she mentioned. Thus, perfected Lord Flowing Snow explained that the two she mentioned had fallen into the demonic path for some reason, like Han Dongping and Mystic River. From the looks of it, they should have been affected by the same thing as Han Dongping and Mystic River. However, they did not know how many nascent soul perfected lords in the entire northern border had encountered the same thing. If this number was huge, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and perfected Lord Flowing Snow couldn't bring themselves to imagine the consequence. The three of them clearly realized the seriousness of the problem. Immediately, perfected Lord Flowing Snow looked at the two of them and said, "Fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen, this matter is of utmost importance. I implore the two of you to return to the Hidden Sword Palace with me and inform perfected Lord Chuan Yang about this. With his knowledge and experience, he should know what is going on. Even if he doesn't know, with his relationship with heavenly lords, he can surely find out. What do the two of you think?" Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not reject perfected Lord Flowing Snow's suggestion. At that moment, the three of them cleaned up the battlefield and returned to the Hidden Sword Palace. In the Hidden Sword Palace, perfected Lord Chuan Yang, Earthwalker, and Yan Wushwang clearly did not expect Jiang Chengxuan and the others to return. However, when they heard what happened to the three of them, their expressions changed. Especially perfected Lord Chuan Yang. His face grew unusually solemn as he listened. Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and perfected Lord Flowing Snow seemed to realize something significant and turned their attention towards perfected Lord Chuan Yang. Perfected Lord Flowing Snow inquired, "Perfected Lord Chuan Yang, do you have any understanding of this matter?" Earthwalker and Yan Wushwang also turned their gazes towards perfected Lord Chuan Yang, waiting for his response. Perfected Lord Chuan Yang fell silent for a moment before saying with a dark expression, "This is the omen of a demonic calamity. The omen of a demonic disaster." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's pupils slightly contracted. Perfected Lord Flowing Snow, Earthwalker, and Yan Wushwang seemed less informed about this. After all, they were relatively younger, with none of them having lived for more than 900 years, and thus had not personally experienced the demonic calamity that occurred every 1200 years. Only perfected Lord Chuan Yang, as a grand cultivator, truly understood the nature of this so-called demonic calamity. He nodded, confirming their fears. "Yes, it is indeed an ominous sign of demonic calamity." Pausing for a moment, perfected Lord Chuan Yang continued, "Now it's time to let you be aware of some truths." Hearing this, perfected Lord Flowing Snow, Earthwalker, Yan Wushwang, and Jiang Chengxuan tensed up, realizing they were about to learn secrets previously unknown to them. Even Shen Ruyan, who was once among the peak figures of this world, focused intently, prepared to listen seriously to what perfected Lord Chuan Yang was about to reveal. Despite her extensive knowledge of many secrets, she understood that much could have changed since her era. After all, a long time had passed since then. During this long period of time, whether there were any changes in this world was not something she could know. Perfected Lord Chuan Yang continued, regarding the demonic calamity or demonic disaster, I believe you all have heard of it. The Seven Lotus demonic sect, the Black Sky demonic sect, and the Crimson Lord were all demonic calamities our world has faced. These calamities used to occur every 1200 years, but since the rise of the Seven Lotus demonic sect, the interval has shortened to every 1,000 years. And according to predictions from heavenly lords, this interval is expected to shorten further over time. At his words, Perfected Lord Flowing Snow, Earthwalker, and Yan Wushwang were deeply shocked. Even Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan felt a heavy sense of unease, understanding all too well what the shortening interval between demonic calamities meant. It indicated that the world's will was being eroded, and the barriers between all the worlds were weakening. When the barrier of this world was weakened to a certain extent, at that time, the person in the outer world could complete his absolute control of this world without needing to create demonic calamities. Senior brother, what about the ominous sign of demonic calamity you mentioned? What does the incident fellow Taoist Jiang and his Tao companion face signify? Yan Wushwang asked anxiously. This is another point I wanted to discuss with you, Perfected Lord Chuan, Yang said gravely. Since the era of the Crimson Lord, every demonic calamity in our world has been preceded by various signs. For example, during the calamity brought about by the Black Sky demonic sect, there were unexplained periods of darkness, even at noon or early morning. During the Seven Lotus demonic sect's calamity, the appearance of the seven-colored lotus platforms led many, including several nascent soul cultivators, astray. These cultivators, once paragons of virtue and heroes who had slain numerous demonic cultivators, fell into the demonic path, something that even heavenly lords found unbelievable at the time. Later on, as they investigated and understood more, they realized that when the omen of a demonic calamity appeared, many things that looked like opportunities but were actually mind-corroding would appear out of thin air in their world. Anyone who came into contact with these items risked being tainted by demonic chi, losing their sense of self, and becoming puppets completely controlled by demonic will, unless they possessed specific protective treasures. The current cultivation world of the Nine Essences has already given such a phenomenon an appropriate name. It's demonic contamination. The most terrifying aspect of these contaminated cultivators is their ability to remain undetected unless they choose to reveal themselves, making it difficult even for grand cultivators like me to notice them. Upon hearing this, everyone understood the gravity of the situation. It was likely Han Dongping and Mystic River had their minds corrupted by the demonic thoughts. No wonder they had so suddenly veered into the demonic path. It was due to the contamination. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan exchanged glances. They surmised that the emergence of these ominous signs of demonic calamity in their world might be a form of self-help by the world's will. It was a warning to the cultivators that a significant crisis was imminent, urging them to prepare for the upcoming demonic calamity. At the same time, the occurrence of demonic contamination suggested that the will of their world was being further weakened. Otherwise, it would never have allowed the emergence of such corrupting influences. The inability to prevent this indicated a desperate measure of self-preservation of the world's will by manifesting these ominous signs. The situation, they realized, was not optimistic. Although their world was not yet on the brink of collapse, the time of crisis seemed not too far off. What can we do in response? Is there a way to detect these contaminated items or people in advance so that we can deal with them accordingly? Yan Wushwang asked, anxious for a solution. Not at the moment. Perfected Lord Chuan, Yang shook his head. But it should be soon. Huh? This statement caused everyone to look at him in surprise. Perfected Lord Chuan, Yang explained. As far as I know, several heavenly lords in our northern border have been working together for a long time to forge a level 6 pure Yang true treasure capable of detecting these contaminated items. By now, this pure Yang true treasure should be near completion. The so-called pure Yang true treasure was actually a level 6 Dharma treasure. Every Dharma treasure that had reached level 6 would give birth to a trace of pure Yang Qi, so it was called a pure Yang true treasure. This Dharma treasure was far more powerful and effective than a level 5 true treasure. It was what made someone a true heavenly lord. However, with the current environment of the nine essences cultivation world, some heavenly lords who had just advanced or those who did not have enough foundation might not even have a pure yang true treasure of their own. At this moment, everyone recalled what perfected Lord Chuan Yang had just said and heaved a sigh of relief. If the heavenly lords in the northern border could really successfully refine a pure yang true treasure that could spot contaminated items, it could undoubtedly eliminate many potential hidden dangers. Otherwise, incidents like the one encountered by perfected Lord Flowing Snow could become more frequent, leading to widespread distrust and disaster during times of demonic calamity. Perfected Lord Chuan Yang, based on your understanding and our current situation in the northern border, when do you estimate this impending demonic calamity will officially begin? Jiang Chengxuan asked, breaking his silence. Everyone's attention shifted back to perfected Lord Chuan Yang. After pondering for a moment, he replied, I can't be certain, but based on my understanding, the demonic calamity we are to face should occur within this century or even sooner. Is that so? Hearing this, the group's expressions grew more serious. If that was the case, they needed to start preparing in advance. Perfected Lord Chuan Yang then addressed everyone. This matter is of great importance. I plan to visit the Purple Sun Palace to inform Heavenly Lord Purple Flame. The Purple Sun Palace that perfected Lord Chuan Yang was talking about was one of the soul formation sects in the northern border. Heavenly Lord Purple Flame was a prominent figure who had achieved soul formation thousands of years ago. Among all the heavenly lords, he was considered a very powerful figure. Since perfected Lord Chuan Yang decided to head to the Purple Sun Palace, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and perfected Lord Flowing Snow decided not to stay at the Hidden Sword Palace any longer. After bidding farewell, they left the palace. Once they were at a distance, perfected Lord Flowing Snow also bid farewell to the couple. Later, Jiang Chengxuan asked Shen Ruyan about the Purple Sun Palace and Heavenly Lord Purple Flame, whom she might have known in her previous life. Shen Ruyan nodded, then shook her head. Back in my time, the Purple Sun Palace did exist, but was only a minor sect without even a nascent soul perfected lord. It's surprising that over the years, it has not only survived but also become a major soul formation sect. As for Heavenly Lord Purple Flame, I'm not sure if he existed during my time. Considering the vast time difference, if he were there back then, he would be incredibly old by now. Although the lifespan of a heavenly lord is long, it usually does not exceed 8,000 years. This is only so after consuming all the life-prolonging spiritual items there are. From the looks of it, that heavenly Lord Purple Flame must have entered the Purple Sun Palace after you reincarnated. As they conversed, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan resumed their journey towards the Nova Waters. Their original plan was to visit the Golden Furnace sect after the trade fair, hoping to find opportunities for advancement. Now, with the looming threat of a demonic calamity, their urgency to enhance their cultivation and strength became even greater, especially in the face of a potential major crisis. However, when they finally arrived in the Nova Waters after several months, they were shocked to discover a massive battle unfolding. The scale of the conflict suggested that several nascent soul-level forces were engaged in warfare. How come? Although the order on the waters was much more chaotic than on land, it was unusual for forces at the nascent soul level to engage in open warfare. Unless there was a special situation. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan exchanged glances, their brows furrowed in concern. It was because the battlefield in front of them happened to be on the path they had to pass to go to the curved sea. If they wanted to go to the curved sea, they would inevitably have to interact with the nascent soul forces that were fighting. This was a very troublesome matter. If things went wrong, it was very likely that they would be involved in the battle. However, this was how things were in this world. The more you fear, the more it will happen. Just as the couple was thinking about how to bypass the battlefields and enter the curved sea, a group of cultivators suddenly flew towards them from afar. The leader was a male cultivator at the 5th level of the Golden Core. He had a hooked nose, and his eyes were filled with hostility. He and his companions immediately surrounded Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan upon approaching. One of the cultivators, a man with narrow eyes, demanded sharply, "Who are you? What business do you have in the Nova Waters? Speak quickly, or we'll treat you as an enemy." Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan frowned. Though they felt irritated, They knew better than to engage in a trivial dispute with these people. Releasing their nascent soul aura would be enough to deter these men, but doing so would draw unwanted attention, making it difficult to pass through the area discreetly. Fortunately, the area around Curved Sea was not easily traversable by everyone, and even if someone managed to get through, they couldn't enter Golden Furnace Sect without the proper token. The only concern would be the trouble they might face upon leaving it. However, these problems were not a problem for the time being. Before the couple could react, the hawk-nosed man and his companions, growing impatient, launched an unprovoked attack on Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Jiang Chengxuan was speechless, and so was Shen Ruyan. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were taken aback by the unexpected, indiscriminate attack. They just didn't respond to the question asked immediately, yet they were ruthlessly attacked. Moreover, this attack was aimed at taking their lives. Since that was the case, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's eyes were cold. Buzz buzz. Without any noticeable movement, two flying swords emerged from their bodies, effortlessly slicing through the Dharma treasures aimed at them. There was a series of cracks. The Dharma treasures that attacked them were all shattered by the flying swords. This immediately shocked the hawk-nosed man, the narrow-eyed man, and the others. How is this possible? Before they could comprehend what was happening, Jiang and Shen's flying swords were in front of them. This immediately made the hawk-nosed man, the narrow-eyed man, and the others look terrified. Senior, please spare me. We are cultivators from Dragon Rock Island, please. Pub. Before they could finish, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's flying swords had already zipped past them one by one. With their current cultivation as nascent soul cultivators, killing the hawk-nosed man and the others did not require any effort. In just an instant, these cultivators from Dragon Rock Island were all killed by the couple. After putting away the storage Dharma treasures on these guys, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were about to leave when several streaks of light suddenly flashed over from afar. This made Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan frown again. However, when they focused their gazes and saw one of the streaks of light, a surprised expression appeared on their faces. Swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, the streaks of light approached. A surprised voice sounded in the air. Fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen. As soon as the voice was heard, the figures in the light revealed their appearance. One of them was Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's acquaintance, Guan Xemting, who had entered the ancient ruins with them that day. However, her cultivation had clearly increased greatly compared to before, reaching the 9th level of Golden Core. So it is fellow Taoist Guan, it's been a long time. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan greeted her with a smile. To be honest, the couple was more or less pleasantly surprised to meet an old acquaintance here. Guan Xinting was obviously the same. She said with a hint of reproach, "Since the two of you have come to the Nova Waters, why didn't you contact me beforehand? It would have been better for me to fulfill the duties of a host." The couple found it difficult to answer Guan Xinting's question. Fortunately, at this moment, the other two people beside her couldn't help but cast slightly curious glances towards Guan Xinting. One of the rather cute female cultivators in a green dress asked, "Senior Sister Guan, these two are?" Guan Xinting immediately raised her hand and patted her head in frustration. "Look at me, I almost forgot to introduce you to each other. Junior Sister Meng, Junior Brother Chen, these two are friends I made during my travels back then." As she spoke, she turned to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. "Fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen, these two are my junior sister and junior brother from the spiritual island of the vast river. Meng Kai and Chen Qingyang. Greetings." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not put on airs of a nascent soul-perfected lord. After hearing Guan Xinting's introduction, they immediately smiled and greeted Meng Kai and Chen Qingyang. The two of them hurriedly returned the greeting. This was their senior sister, Guan Xinting's good friend. As junior sisters and junior brothers, they naturally did not dare to be negligent. By the way, at this moment, Guan Xinting seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but ask the couple, "I saw the guys from Dragon Rock Island here just now. Did they have a conflict with you? How is it, are you all right?" It was obvious that Guan Xinting and the other two did not see what had happened. They only roughly sensed that there were people from Dragon Rock Island. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. The two of them did not hide anything. Instead, they told Guan Xinting what had just happened. This made Meng Qian and Chen Qingyang, who were beside Guan Xinting, secretly click their tongues in surprise. Wasn't their senior sister's two friends a little too powerful? 2 to 3 golden cores and 7 to 8 violet palace cultivators were actually killed by them so easily. On the other hand, Guan Xinting was not too surprised by this outcome. When they first met, she knew that their strength was extraordinary. Now that such a long time had passed, their strength had definitely reached a new height. At the thought of this, Guan Xinting was also quite curious about their current cultivation levels. However, such matters were not very appropriate to inquire about directly, so she could only wait for a future opportunity to probe. At that moment, she invited Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan to visit the spiritual island of the vast river. It would have been fine if they had not encountered each other. Since the two sides had already met, it would be unreasonable for the couple to refuse. Most importantly, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were also curious about the situation in the Nova waters. They wanted to know what exactly happened here that caused a war between several nascent soul forces. As Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Guan Xinting traveled together towards the spiritual island of the vast river, they finally asked the question that had been on their minds. Upon hearing this, the faces of Guan Xinting and her fellow disciples wore bitter smiles. Guan Xinting spoke. To be honest, the main reason why the major nascent soul forces in the Nova waters have erupted into such a massive conflict is because they are fighting over ownership of the heavenly water crystal mine. The heavenly water crystal mine. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's hearts skipped a beat. Clearly, both of them were well aware that the so-called heavenly water crystal was a precious water element treasure, particularly valuable in crafting Dharma artifacts and low-grade Dharma treasures. Not to mention that what they had discovered now was an entire mine. It was no wonder that the nascent soul forces here had completely thrown diplomacy aside and erupted into such a large-scale conflict. If they were in their shoes, they would find it difficult not to go to war for such a valuable resource. Guan Xinting then provided more details about the ongoing conflict to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Listening to her, the couple furrowed their brows. According to Guan Xinting, there were 3 nascent soul-level forces currently involved in this large-scale conflict. They were Dragon Rock Island, Pension Spiritual Island, and Azure Sky Island. The strength of the 3 forces could be said to be on par. In the beginning, it could be said that none of the 3 forces could do anything to the other. However, as time passed, the strength of Dragon Rock Island became stronger and stronger. Their actions became more and more domineering and unscrupulous. In particular, after their island master, perfected Lord Dragon Rock, broke through to the mid-stage nascent soul, he started exerting pressure on the 2 perfected lords of Pension Spiritual Island and Azure Sky Island. There was no doubt that a mid-stage nascent soul had an overwhelming advantage over 2 early-stage nascent soul cultivators. With no other choice, the other 2 forces, which were originally in a chaotic battle, finally chose to join forces after the strength of Dragon Rock Island advanced. However, even so, they were still not a match for Dragon Rock Island. In the end, the 2 forces proposed a peace treaty with Dragon Rock Island. To everyone's surprise, Dragon Rock Island actually refused. Perfected Lord Dragon Rock actually wanted to monopolize the heavenly water crystal mine. This infuriated Pension Spiritual Island and the Azure Sky Island. Without wasting any breath, the 2 forces started a true all-out war with Dragon Rock Island. So far, the number of golden core cultivators who had died in the 3 forces had reached 12. And that was not counting the people Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had just killed. Such a loss had already exceeded the value of the heavenly water crystal mine. Now, even if someone wanted them to stop the war, it was impossible. Unless someone at the peak of nascent soul spoke, it was impossible for this war to stop. This was really a dire situation. However, for some reason, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan felt that something was amiss. They couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong, but they had a strong sense that something about this situation was abnormal. Just as the 2 of them were thinking about this, Guan Xinting suddenly smiled and said to them, "Fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen, look, that's our spiritual island of the vast river ahead." However, just as she finished speaking, Meng Qian and Chen Qingyang, who were beside her, were suddenly stunned. Their expressions changed drastically. How could this be? On a huge island in the distance, flames soared into the sky. Accompanying it were powerful dharmic power fluctuations. Among them were 4 extremely imposing figures that struck terror into one's heart. Unfortunately, one of those figures was being cornered by the other 3. Shifu, Guan Xinting, Meng Qian, and Chen Qingyang subconsciously cried out in alarm as they watched the figure being beaten back repeatedly. At this moment, they could clearly see that the 3 people attacking their Shifu were perfected Lord Dragon Rock of Dragon Rock Island, perfected Lord Pangshan of Pangshan Spiritual Island, and perfected Lord Azure Sky. How come? The 3 of them were at a loss. They could not understand why the 3 forces that were fighting to the death previously would join forces now. Most importantly, why did they attack the spiritual island of the vast river? Swoosh swoosh. As if sensing the approach of Guan Xinting and the others, 7 or 8 powerful figures suddenly flew towards them from the direction of the vast river Spirit Island. They were led by 2 false nascent soul cultivators. The remaining 5 to 6 people were also at the late-stage golden core. It was obvious that they were sent to kill Guan Xinting and the others. Run! Suddenly, a loud roar came from the person Guan Xinting and the others called Shifu. All of us were deceived by them. The heavenly water crystal mine, the war between the 3 forces, everything is fake. Xinting, quickly leave with Meng Qian and Qingyang. The further you go, the better. Don't ever come back. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure was sent flying dozens of kilometers by the 3 people in front of him again. In the end, it smashed into the sea and immediately raised a huge water pillar that was thousands of feet tall. Hee, you still want to leave at this point. Vast River, I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. Today, you and everyone on this island won't be able to leave. A man with a long beard said with a sneer. This person was the island master of Dragon Rock Island, perfected Lord Dragon Rock. He was also the one with the highest cultivation at the mid-stage of the nascent soul. Beside him were a man and a woman. It was perfected Lord Pangshan and perfected Lord Azure Sky. At this moment, the 2 of them also looked at perfected Lord Vast River, who had been thrown into the sea with a teasing expression. At the same time, the 7 to 8 people flying towards Jiang Chengxuan and Guan Xinting had already closed in on them and were only a few hundred kilometers away. For a nascent soul realm perfected lord, this distance could be covered in the blink of an eye. Even for golden core cultivators, it was also a relatively dangerous distance. Fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen, junior sister Meng and junior brother Chen, let's leave quickly. At this moment, Guan Xinting finally came back to her senses. Without another word, she immediately decided to leave. However, before they could do anything, the 7 or 8 people had already launched their first wave of attacks. Among them, the 2 false nascent soul cultivators in the lead attacked the most fiercely. In the air, a bell in a tower suddenly pressed down on them with a great force. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The 2 Dharma treasures had yet to descend on them, but the terrifying fluctuations emitted from them had already made the air around Guan Xinting and the others thinner. At this moment, if they turned around to leave, their speed would definitely be slowed down. Not only could they not escape, but they might also waste the best opportunity to resist. Guan Xinting looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan apologetically before transmitting her voice to the couple, Meng Qian and Chen Qingyang. In a while, I'll do my best to stall them. At that time, you can run separately. Fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen, I'm really sorry to have implicated you. As she spoke, Guan Xinting prepared to burn her blood essence to block the other party's attack. However, at this moment, a hand gently pressed on her shoulder. Jiang Chengxuan looked up calmly and said word by word. Fellow Taoist Guan, there's no need to risk your life. Leave this to me and my wife. Lord. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Guan Xinting, Meng Qian and Chen Qingyang all looked at him in shock. However, before Guan Xinting could speak, Jiang Chengxuan, who was beside her, gently clenched his fist and threw a punch. Dong! It was like a huge hammer smashing into the lake. The originally calm void suddenly rippled like waves. The bell and tower that were attacking them suddenly seemed to have frozen. The entire bell and tower shook violently. In the end, with 2 clangs, they flew into the distance and smashed into the sea, causing 2 water pillars to shoot into the sky. It was the same for the other people's attacks. They were all shattered by Jiang Chengxuan's punch. What? The 2 false nascent soul cultivators and the golden core cultivators could not help but reveal shocked expressions. However, before they could react, a dazzling sword light, as brilliant as a golden sun, suddenly expanded in their pupils. The terrifying might made the hairs on their bodies stand on end. There was a swishing sound. These people didn't have time for any reaction at all. Their entire bodies were engulfed by that extremely dazzling sword light. Their figures seemed to disintegrate like weathered sandstone, disappearing without a trace, as if blown away by a gentle breeze. This, Guan Xinting, Meng Qian, and Chen Qingyang watched everything with their mouths agape. They really could not believe their eyes. One had to know that those were all late-stage golden core cultivators. Two of them had even reached the false nascent soul realm. And what happened? They were easily dealt with by Jiang Chengxuan with a punch and a sword. Wasn't this too exaggerated? Even Guan Xinting, who knew the couple quite well, had never thought that their strength would have reached such a level. Could it be that in the past few years, Jiang Chengxuan and even Shen Ruyan had already surpassed the golden core realm and reached the same level as their Shifu? Subconsciously, Guan Xinting and the others turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan. Guan Xinting asked cautiously, "Fellow Taoist Jiang, could it be that your cultivation has already?" "You are right." Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded. At this point he had nothing to hide. This made Guan Xinting, Meng Qian, and Chen Qingyang involuntarily gasp. Suddenly, Guan Xinting seemed to realize something. She turned to Shen Ruyan, who was beside Jiang Chengxuan, and said, "Fellow Taoist Shen, since fellow Taoist Jiang's cultivation has broken through to nascent soul, is your cultivation also?" "Yes, that's right." Facing Guan Xinting's question, Shen Ruyan nodded with a smile. It was really. Guan Xinting couldn't help but gasp again. Initially, she thought that the improvement of her cultivation over the years was considered great. Unexpectedly, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's improvement was even greater. They had advanced a major realm. It was also a realm that many golden cores could never cross in their lives. At this moment, Guan Xinting did not know what to say to describe her feelings. She was thinking that since Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had already reached nascent soul, perhaps she could ask them for help. However, she couldn't bring herself to make such a request. At that moment, Perfected Lord Vast River and the other three who were suppressing Perfected Lord Vast River in the distance clearly sensed the abnormality. This immediately made their eyes darken. The three of them knew very well the strength Jiang Chengxuan had just displayed was the strength of a nascent soul. A nascent soul had suddenly appeared. Furthermore, from the looks of it, he was with Perfected Lord Vast River. This was clearly beyond their expectations. The three of them quickly looked at each other. Then Perfected Lord Pengxian suddenly flashed and rushed towards Jiang Chengxuan. "Fellow Taoist, I don't think you're from the Nova Waters. This is an internal matter of the Nova Waters. I hope you won't interfere. We'll definitely repay you in the future." Before Perfected Lord Pengxian arrived, his voice was already transmitted over from afar. Perfected Lord Vast River, who was fighting Perfected Lord Dragon Rock and Perfected Lord Azure Sky in the distance, seemed to know that Perfected Lord Pengxian would send a voice transmission to Jiang Chengxuan and suddenly shouted at him, "Fellow Taoist, don't believe Perfected Lord Pengxian. The three of them are acting extremely strangely. There is definitely something wrong. Fellow Taoist, don't be deceived by them. You're courting death." When they heard Perfected Lord Vast River's words, the eyes of Perfected Lord Dragon Rock and Perfected Lord Azure Sky, who were still suppressing him, burned with killing intent. Subsequently, their attacks intensified. Perfected Lord Vast River retreated continuously, with blood gushing out of his body. At the same time, Perfected Lord Pengxian was already hundreds of kilometers away from Jiang Chengxuan and the others. This distance was already extremely dangerous for a nascent soul cultivator. Jiang Chengxuan narrowed his eyes. "Lord 2. He and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. A guess flashed across their minds almost at the same time. Boom! Suddenly, a gigantic battle axe charged out from Perfected Lord Pengxian's head. The battle axe seemed capable of cleaving heaven and earth, carrying an overwhelming and resolute killing intent, as it suddenly descended upon Jiang Chengxuan and the others. At this moment, Guan Xinting and the other two, who were beside Jiang Chengxuan, only had eyes fixed on the huge battle axe. Their dharmic powers and primordial spirits seemed to have been completely frozen. They could not react at all. HMPH. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan snorted. In the next moment, the zenith nascent soul in his body suddenly opened its eyes. Terrifying dharmic power spewed out like a fountain. There was a clang. Jiang Chengxuan's golden void sword turned into a 1,000-foot-long sword light and collided fiercely with the huge battle axe. Boom! In that instant, at the point where the sword and the axe collided, a fierce radiance suddenly burst outward, resembling the brilliance of the sun. The sea below suddenly exploded with a bang, causing a huge wave that was thousands of feet tall. Bang! However, at that moment, perfected Lord Pengxian, who was the first to attack, was smashed into the sea by a huge force. Even the huge battle axe he summoned was sent flying for an unknown distance. How come? In the distance, perfected Lord Dragon Rock and perfected Lord Azure Sky, who were paying attention to Jiang Chengxuan and the others, revealed looks of shock and disbelief. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan did not stop. He raised his hand and clenched his fingers. The powerful dharmic power that belonged to the zenith nascent soul was injected into the golden void sword again. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In an instant, the light of the golden void sword shone even brighter. The sharp sword energy directly carved a deep fissure on the ground below. Guan Xinting and the other two were shocked beyond words. Go! In the end, Jiang Chengxuan pointed. The golden void sword suddenly transformed into a massive and brilliant sword light. Boom! A huge hole immediately appeared on the surface of the sea. Golden light surged like a tide. Arg! At the same time, a scream suddenly sounded in everyone's ears. Perfected Lord Pengxian, who was thrown into the sea by Jiang Chengxuan, was already covered in blood. One of his arms had disappeared. Needless to say, this was definitely the result of Jiang Chengxuan's attack just now. No one expected his current strength to be so domineering. Even perfected Lord Pengxian, a veteran nascent soul, was not his match at all. Guan Xinting had mixed feelings. At that moment, a deep black light suddenly rose from perfected Lord Pengxian, who was already severely injured by Jiang Chengxuan. Extraordinarily evil, crazed, and twisted aura slowly emanated from his body. Even his strength seemed to have increased greatly under this change. What? The expressions of Guan Xinting and the others could not help but change. They widened their eyes in disbelief. He. At that moment, perfected Lord Pengxian suddenly let out a strange and sinister laugh. His eyes were instantly filled with a dark red radiance, and as he turned to gaze into the eyes of Jiang Chengxuan and the others, they were filled with cruelty and malevolence. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other, looking exceptionally solemn. This was not to say that the demonized perfected Lord Pengxian posed any substantial threat to them. Instead, the situation sounded an urgent alarm in their hearts. Previously, there was Han Dongping and Taoist Mystic River, and now there was perfected Lord Pengxian. If perfected Lord Pengxian was like this, could perfected Lord Dragon Rock and perfected Lord Azure Sky in the distance be? Just as this thought flashed through their minds, they saw perfected Lord Dragon Rock and perfected Lord Azure Sky, who were fighting perfected Lord Vast River in the distance, emitting black light. An extremely evil demonic aura suddenly erupted. Along with that, their eyes also turned dark red. As expected, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's eyes narrowed. In total, 5 perfected lords had been contaminated. This was what they had encountered so far. How many more did they not encounter or know? Moreover, who could guarantee that such a demonic contamination would only target nascent soul cultivators? If this situation continued and affected cultivators below nascent soul, the outcome would be unimaginable. Previously, perfected Lord Chuan Yang said that the demonic calamity might erupt 100 years later. However, to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, the demonic calamity had already begun. If they really foolishly allowed this situation to continue, in 100 years, they would probably not only have to face demonic cultivators from the outer world, but also countless demonized cultivators from their own world. Boom! At that moment, the demonized perfected Lord Pengxian's huge battle axe was suddenly dyed black like ink. In the ears of Guan Xinting and the others, it was as if countless ghosts and wolves were wailing, making them feel nauseous. Lord 3. Their bodies started to sway uncontrollably. Just as they were about to fall into the sea, Shen Ruyan, who was beside them, suddenly lit up with lightning on her palm. Crackle! Blinding lightning flashed above their heads. In an instant, the horrifying howls that were still lingering in their ears immediately disappeared. At the same time, the image of a demonic hand appeared at the front of the huge battle axe that was contaminated with dense demonic chi. The power of the battle axe was more than twice as strong as before. It slashed at Jiang Chengxuan's head with full might. A sharp glint flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. Then his body suddenly soared. The phantom of an emperor slowly rose behind him. An imposing and majestic aura suddenly erupted from him. Boom! As he punched out with a huge fist, the entire sky in this area was instantly filled with boundless regal majesty. It was awe-striking. The huge battle axe that had just reached the top of his head collided with Jiang Chengxuan's fist, and a deafening sound immediately erupted. Immediately after, a wail suddenly came from the battle axe. The demonic chi around the battle axe was instantly dispersed. Together with its main body, it was sent flying 50 kilometers away. What? Perfected Lord Pengxin's expression changed drastically when he saw that. However, this time, Jiang Chengxuan would not give him any chance to launch another attack. He took a step forward. The huge Emperor Phantom behind him appeared again. The powerful punches were thrown out continuously. Affected Lord Pengxin retreated and bled. His body was covered in dense cracks. You're courting death. Stop. Perfected Lord Dragon Rock and Perfected Lord Azure Sky, who were watching from afar, could no longer remain calm. As the two of them roared, they had already abandoned Perfected Lord Vast River and rushed towards Jiang Chengxuan. Boom! However, before the two of them could approach, after a majestic Emperor Phantom flashed behind Jiang Chengxuan, another huge phantom of a dragon and an elephant flashed. In an instant, a punch that was several times stronger than before smashed into Perfected Lord Pengxin's body. There was a bang. Perfected Lord Pengxin's entire body was shattered instantly. Arg! Accompanied by a scream, a black nascent soul the size of a palm rushed out of the shattered body. Just as he was about to flee in desperation, a dazzling golden sword chi suddenly swept past him. I can't accept this. With a furious roar, Perfected Lord Pengxin's demonized nascent soul was instantly cleaved, and his spiritual chi scattered all over the sky. Whoosh! A huge spiritual chi tide immediately surged in the air. Everyone could not help but feel shocked. A nascent soul realm, Perfected Lord had died just like that. Perfected Lord Dragon Rock and Perfected Lord Azure Sky, who were rushing over, roared, their body beginning to change rapidly. Waves of dense demonic chi began to quickly circle around them. Their eyes, which were already dark red, grew even darker. Die! Swoosh! Suddenly, in midair, a long spear shrouded in boundless demonic chi pierced through the air, spinning rapidly, and shot towards the center of Jiang Chengxuan's forehead. At the same time, a flying sword charged out from above Perfected Lord Azure Sky's head. Layer upon layer of sword light instantly transformed into a web of swords, indiscriminately shooting the area where Jiang Chengxuan was located. He seemed to intend to cut everyone, including Jiang Chengxuan, into pieces. Rumble! But at this moment, Shen Ruyan, who had not intervened from the beginning, suddenly moved. She raised her hand. Her intrinsic Dharma treasure, Falling Thunder Seal, immediately transformed into boundless thunderbolts and faced the attacks of the two. The sky was filled with dazzling lightning. Loud rumblings resounded incessantly in the ears of everyone. The terrifying power dimmed the radiance of Perfected Lord Dragon Rock's spear and Perfected Lord Azure Sky's flying sword, emitting cries of pain that seemed almost human. Lightning Elemental True Treasure. How can that be? Clearly, neither Perfected Lord Dragon Rock nor Perfected Lord Azure Sky expected the female cultivator beside Jiang Chengxuan to be a nascent soul Perfected Lord too. Moreover, she was a Perfected Lord proficient in the mastery of lightning. Husband, to avoid any further complications, let's each deal with one of them and end this swiftly. At this moment, Shen Ruyan's voice suddenly sounded in Jiang Chengxuan's ears. Hearing her words, Jiang Chengxuan immediately nodded at her. In the next moment, Jiang Chengxuan's figure turned into an extremely sharp sword light that slashed towards Dragon Rock. Perfected Lord Dragon Rock clearly didn't anticipate that Jiang Chengxuan would target him, and a hint of ferocity flashed across his face. The next moment, he bit off 3 of his fingers. Crack, crack, crack. A massive, dark red mist suddenly condensed in front of him. Accompanying this was a series of abnormally terrifying and inhuman roars. Swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, 3 ferocious demonic hands flew out from the dark red fog and grabbed the sword light that Xianxia had transformed into. You're courting death. Killing intent flashed across Xianxia's eyes. The zenith nascent soul in his body suddenly moved. In the next moment, the power of the sword light he transformed into increased by 30%. At the same time, a 5-colored fan-shaped light instantly swept past the 3 demonic hands and perfected Lord Dragon Rock. The 3 demonic hands that were originally filled with endless malice and demonic might, as well as perfected Lord Dragon Rock, suddenly decreased by 30%. Dragon Rock was flabbergasted. What is going on? However, before he could understand all of this, the sharp sword light formed by Xianxia had already collided fiercely with the 3 demonic hands. Rumble! A tremendous explosion suddenly resounded. A massive mushroom cloud, a mix of gold, black, and red, rapidly soared into the sky and quickly expanded outward in concentric rings. Crack! In this huge mushroom cloud, a dazzling sword light tore through the layers of ripples and appeared in front of everyone again. What? Dragon Rock's expression changed drastically. One had to know that he gave it his all in that strike just now. In the end, not only was he unable to severely injure Xianxia. From the looks of it, Xianxia did not seem to be injured at all. How is this possible? Boom! While perfected Lord Dragon Lord was in a daze, a golden furnace appeared in Xianxia's hand. He threw the golden furnace in the direction of Dragon Rock. In an instant, the golden furnace suddenly expanded. In the blink of an eye, it became 1,000 feet long and pressed down on Dragon Lord. Affected Lord Dragon Rock's anger flared up once again. Waves of terrifying black demonic chi burst out of his body again. Moreover, this time, the black demonic QJ seemed to have the attribute of being able to corrode everything, especially the spear that flew out of the black demonic chi. An incomparably ferocious demon head pattern appeared at the tip of the spear and let out a resentful roar at the golden furnace. Roar! Guan Xinting and the others, who had already retreated far away, could not help but change their expressions when they saw this scene. However, before they could remind him, raging flames suddenly erupted from the golden furnace. The flames were golden in color and carried a powerful yang energy. Boom! The black demonic chi that was surging and wrapped around the spear suddenly melted like ice and snow meeting a blazing sun. The pattern of the demon head that appeared at the tip of the spear had become abnormally distorted, as if it was suffering a torture. The Sun True Flame, it's actually the Sun True Flame. At this moment, perfected Lord Dragon Rock finally shouted in shock. A trace of fear appeared in his eyes. Bang! Crack! At the same time, Xianxia's intrinsic true treasure, the golden void sword, slashed out again. The brilliant sword light directly cleaved through the demonic flame spear, which was engulfed in the Sun True Fire, causing it to emit a mournful cry. The entire spear kept trembling. Finally, there was a click. A long crack appeared on the spear from head to tail. In the end, with a bang, the entire spear was absorbed by the eternal scorching sun furnace. With a clang, the lid of the furnace was closed. There was no more movement from the spear. Arg! At the same time, suddenly, a large mouthful of black blood spewed out of Dragon Rock's mouth. His entire body trembled, and he was visibly injured. Seeing this, Xianxia did not hesitate at all. The phantom of an emperor and the phantom of a dragon and an elephant flickered. In that instant, his entire being surged to a height of 50 feet, carrying an incredibly formidable power that struck Dragon Rock without giving him any time to evade. A punch landed on his body. Boom! Perfected Lord Dragon Rock was like a missile that had just been fired. He was quickly sent flying backward at the speed of sound. During this process, his body exploded like a watermelon. Arg! As soon as his black nascent soul escaped, it was torn to pieces by the powerful demon-suppressing aura. He died on the spot. Crack! At the same time, a lightning spear wrapped in blue, silver, green, and red pierced straight into perfected Lord Azure Sky's body, causing her body to disintegrate. A palm-sized black nascent soul had just attempted to escape into the distance, But what awaited her was a terrifying sword light shimmering with five-colored thunder. Arg! With a tragic cry, perfected Lord Azure Sky's nascent soul died on the spot as well. Rustle! Two violent spiritual chi tides suddenly surged in the surroundings. This made Guan Xinting and the other two, who had witnessed it with their own eyes, unable to recover from the shock for a long time. Especially Guan Xinting. Even now, the scene of the couple killing perfected Lord Dragon Rock and perfected Lord Azure Sky was still reflected in her eyes. It was really too shocking. Even perfected Lord Vast River, who had just arrived, could not hide his shock. He really didn't expect that they could kill 3 perfected lords. This strength was already far above his. Moreover, he knew about Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. When Guan Xinting returned to the spiritual island of the vast river, she had mentioned the two of them to him. Unexpectedly, after all these years, the two of them had already grown to this extent. It was simply unbelievable. Perfected Lord Vast River hurried to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and cupped his fists to thank them. Thank you for your help. Otherwise, I'm afraid the entire spiritual island of the vast river will cease to exist today. Hearing perfected Lord Vast River's words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could not help but smile and shake their heads. Fellow Taoist Vast River, you're welcome. Jiang Chengxuan said. By the way, fellow Taoist Vast River, how much do you know about perfected Lord Dragon Rock and the other two? What's going on with them? Perfected Lord Vast River's expression turned solemn when he heard Jiang Chengxuan's question. He said, speaking of which, a friend of mine on Tianping Spiritual Island told me something. Huh? Hearing perfected Lord Vast River's words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could not help but perk up. Perfected Lord Vast River continued, that friend of mine is a cultivator who masters the art of mineral vein exploration. Furthermore, he has reached an extremely high attainment. One time, when he was in charge of guarding the heavenly water crystal mine, he suddenly discovered the abnormality. Therefore, he carefully explored the area he was in charge of. In the end, he was shocked to discover that the heavenly water crystal mine that the 3 perfected lords were fighting for was nothing more than an artificially created scheme. Most importantly, this fake mine could easily deceive gold core cultivators who were not proficient in mineral vein exploration. Even false nascent soul cultivators might be deceived if they did not investigate closely. But for nascent soul perfected lords, it's impossible to deceive them no matter what. However, the problem now is that the nascent soul perfected lords treated this crystal mine as real. This is very abnormal. In order to protect himself, he came to me and told me all his discoveries. Unfortunately, a few days after he told me the entire matter, he suddenly died on my island. And it seemed that his death was caused by a curse. I immediately realized that something was wrong. Just as I was about to take action, Dragon Rock and the other two came over to kill me. Moreover, they all had level 5 array-breaking beads. As for what happened after that, you've seen it for yourself. I see. After hearing perfected Lord Vast River's description, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan finally understood why the 3 of them attacked the spiritual island of the vast river. Then the question was, why did Dragon Rock and the others deliberately do those things? Or rather, what was their motive? At that thought, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could not help but look at each other. Then, they took out the storage rings on perfected Lord Pengxian, perfected Lord Dragon Rock, and perfected Lord Azure Sky. Soon, they found 3 rainbow jade slips in their storage rings. Perfected Lord Vast River and Guan Xinting could not help but reveal curious expressions when they saw the 3 rainbow-colored jade slips. Obviously, they did not know what was special about this item. Crack! Suddenly, lightning rose from Shen Ruyan's palm and enveloped the jade slip in her and Jiang Chengxuan's hands. Perfected Lord Vast River and Guan Xinting were shocked. Fellow Taoists, what are you? Before he could finish, the rainbow jade slip in Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's hands suddenly turned black. Thick demonic chi wrapped around it and let out a shrill cry that seemed to be able to penetrate divine sense. What? Affected Lord Vast River and Guan Xinting were shocked when they saw this unfolding. A second ago, the jade slip seemed to be some kind of impressive inheritance jade slip, but in the next second, it became a jade slip filled with demonic chi. Even a fool knew what would happen if one placed the jade slip on their forehead and tried to read the contents. Perfected Lord Dragon Rock and Perfected Lord Pension might have suffered from chi deviation because of reading the Jade slip. At that thought, Perfected Lord Vast River and Guan Xinting could not help but feel a chill down their spines. Especially Perfected Lord Vast River. He could clearly feel that the dense demonic chi that erupted from the Jade slip seemed to be specially targeted at nascent soul cultivators like them. If he happened to come across this Jade slip, he would probably not have been able to help but check it. Boom! As the lightning in Shen Ruyan's palm became more and more vigorous, the 3 Jade slips finally couldn't resist anymore. There was a series of bangs. The 3 Jade slips instantly turned into a pile of powder and dissipated. When he saw that, Perfected Lord Vast River could no longer hold it in. He looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and asked, "Fellow Taoists, that was. It's a contaminated item." Contaminated item. Perfected Lord Vast River and Guan Xinting were stunned. Jiang Chengxuan nodded. Without hiding anything, he recounted everything to Perfected Lord Vast River and the others. When Perfected Lord Vast River, Guan Xinting and the others heard that, their hearts were in turmoil. They never expected a contaminated item to look like this. Most importantly, the legendary demonic calamity was about to arrive again. If they did not deal with it properly, the consequences would be unimaginable. By the way, at that moment, Perfected Lord Vast River seemed to have thought of something. He couldn't help but look at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan again. "Fellow Taoists, did you discover anything else? Since the 3 of them had already taken the demonic path, why did they still pretend to wage a war previously? What's the point?" This was also a question that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could not understand. Unfortunately, they did not find any valuable clues in their storage rings. At this moment, Guan Xinting said, "Could this be a show they deliberately put on? And their goal might be to really disturb the order of the Nova Waters and use this opportunity to create a place that can allow demonic cultivators to reside." These words stunned Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Perfected Lord Vast River. On second thought, they immediately felt that what Guan Xinting said made sense. Everyone knew that the more chaotic and disorderly a place was, the more suitable it was for demonic cultivators to survive. The best way to cause chaos in a place was undoubtedly to fight a war. However, at the level of nascent soul, under normal circumstances, unless there was a blood feud, they would not attack each other easily. Not to mention a large-scale war. The only drive for the nascent soul forces to engage in a large-scale war and attack was benefits. Was that why Dragon Rock and the others had created a crystal mine to elude outsiders? If things were indeed as Guan Xinting suspected, then their previous scheme could truly be described as grand. Most importantly, since such a thing had happened in the Nova Waters, what about other places? Was the same thing also taking place? At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan suddenly felt that the situation in the entire northern border had become disturbingly serious. After that, they did not stay here for long. Soon, they headed to the base of the 3 forces together to carry out further investigation. In the end, they really discovered something. In their base, they actually found several cultivators from the other nascent soul islands in the Nova Waters. They were all locked up. The reason was to arouse suspicion among the other nascent soul islands in the Nova Waters. If Jiang Chengxuan and his wife had not appeared in time, this scheme might have succeeded. At that time, the chaos in the Nova Waters would gradually go out of control and eventually become an unsolvable situation. Apart from this, Jiang Chengxuan and the others also discovered some demonic cultivators hiding on the islands, as well as those who had been bewitched into demonic cultivators by Perfected Lord Dragon Rock. To these individuals, Jiang Chengxuan didn't show mercy and simply sent them to reunite with Dragon Rock and the other 2. On the other hand, he did not do anything to those who stayed firm to their belief and were not bewitched. In the end, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan found Perfected Lord Vast River again and said to him, "Fellow Taoist Vast River, we've already done what we can. As for the rest, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you and fellow Taoist Guan. Especially regarding the demonic calamity, please inform the other fellow Taoists in the Nova Waters. I hope they can be prepared and not be bewitched by some seemingly godsend opportunities." Fellow Taoists, are you planning to leave?" When he heard Jiang Chengxuan's words, Perfected Lord Vast River immediately asked. "That's right. Jiang Chengxuan nodded. We still have some other things to attend to, so we don't plan to stay here any longer. If anything happens here in the future, fellow Taoist Vast River, you can send us a message. As long as it is within our ability, we will definitely help. Upon hearing that, perfected Lord Vast River knew that he couldn't change Jiang Chengxuan's mind. Thus, he did not urge them to stay. Instead, with a solemn expression, he clasped his fist at the two of them. In that case, take care, fellow Taoists. In the future, if you need anything, feel free to send me a message. No matter what it is, I will do my best to assist you. All right, goodbye. The two of them cupped their fists at perfected Lord Vast River and greeted Guan Xinting and the others before leaving the spiritual island of the Vast River. More than 10 days later, the couple finally arrived at their destination, the Curved Sea. Unfortunately, the Curved Sea was still covered in thick fog. Despite being nascent soul, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan still couldn't see through it easily. They could only see things dozens of meters around them. Fortunately, they had the Golden Cloud token they had obtained from the Golden First Sect. With the Golden Cloud token, the couple did not spend much effort to reach the ancient stone door. It was the same as last time. A crimson light suddenly shot out from the top of the Golden Cloud token in Jiang Chengxuan's hand and landed on the ancient stone door. Crack! The stone door immediately let out a sound like a mechanism turning. The array runes on it immediately lit up as if they had been connected to electricity. With a thud, the huge stone door opened completely. Tab, tab, tab. Inside the Golden Furnace Sect, the familiar scene entered Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's eyes. This time, the couple did not encounter any tests or obstacles. The journey was quite smooth. Soon, the two of them arrived at the teleportation array. They took out some mid-grade spiritual stones and placed them into the groove beside the teleportation array. Soon, the teleportation array lit up and enveloped the two of them. When the two of them opened their eyes again, they shockingly discovered that they had arrived at the arena where they left last time. Buzz! At this moment, a reddish-gold light suddenly lit up on the Golden Cloud, token that Jiang Chengxuan carried with him. Then the reddish-gold light circled the arena and fused into it. What? Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other, not understanding what was going on. But soon, they felt a tremor in the arena under their feet. Then a puppet monster that was hundreds of feet tall and looked like an ape appeared in front of the two of them. This is... Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's eyes narrowed. This was because they sensed a powerful aura from the ape puppet in front of them. This aura was definitely not something a golden core puppet could possess. This was a puppet that had reached level 5. Roar! Suddenly, the ape puppet let out a roar. In an instant, a visible sound wave surged towards Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. In terms of power, this sound wave had already reached level 5. If there were 2 golden core cultivators here, they would have almost no chance of withstanding this sound wave attack. No wonder when they obtained the Golden Cloud token, they were specially informed to wait until their cultivation reached nascent soul before coming back. So this was the reason. Bang! A purple umbrella with lightning clouds suddenly appeared in Shen Ruyan's hand. It was the level 5 defensive true treasure formed by the Earth Lightning Fruit, Thundercloud Electric Umbrella. When the ape puppet's sound wave attack landed on the umbrella, it emitted a muffled sound and dissipated. Roar! As if angered by Shen Ruyan's action, the ape puppet roared again and quickly charged towards the couple. Dong dong dong! The ground was shaking. An oppressive aura filled the entire arena. I'll do it, Jiang Chengxuan said to Shen Ruyan with a smile. In the next moment, his body quickly began to grow. In the blink of an eye, it became 30 feet tall and blocked the charging ape puppet head-on. Boom! It was as if 2 small mountains had collided, causing airwaves to surge crazily. The ape puppet's claws were like steel needles, aiming to gouge out Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. Ding ding! Flames suddenly appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's eyelids. The ape puppet's sharp claws that were like steel needles failed to even scratch Jiang Chengxuan's eyelids. At the same time, a cold smile flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's lips. In the next moment, he suddenly exerted strength in his hands. Boom! Jiang Chengxuan lifted the entire massive body of the ape puppet and then slammed it forcefully onto the ground. There was a loud bang. Immediately after, a dragon and an elephant phantom flashed behind Jiang Chengxuan. The powerful force sent the ape puppet on the ground, flying 1,000 meters away. In the end, its body collided heavily with the edge of the arena and was rebounded by a light screen. At the same time, the golden cloud token on Jiang Chengxuan's body suddenly shot out a golden light. The ape puppet that was about to continue charging at Jiang Chengxuan actually stopped there, motionless. Huh? Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who were not far away, were stunned. However, in the next moment, a jade slip suddenly landed in Jiang Chengxuan's hand. It was a jade slip about how to control this puppet. Seeing this jade slip, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but be delighted. With this jade slip, the Jiang family would have another nascent soul. Although its combat strength was slightly inferior to true nascent soul perfected lord. However, it was enough to increase the overall strength of the Jiang family. He just did not know if there were more of such puppets in the journey ahead. Now, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were looking forward to it even more. However, a long time passed without them coming across the second level 5 puppet. Instead, a faint teleportation power enveloped them. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were wary. In the next moment, the faint teleportation power suddenly became stronger. It carried the two of them to a herbal garden. This is... Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were stunned. In front of them, there were all kinds of spiritual herbs, flowers, spiritual fruits, and trees. Moreover, their grade was not low, with the worst one being level 3. Moreover, each of them was more than 500 years old. Most importantly, they saw many level 5 spiritual herbs. Even to them, it was a rare treasure. Especially a spiritual herb called the spatial grass. It was a spiritual herb that could directly increase one's cultivation. Moreover, there was no need to refine it. It could be consumed directly without any side effects. It was not an exaggeration to say that if Jiang Chengxuan could consume a stalk of spatial grass, it would be equivalent to 100 years of strenuous cultivation. In addition, there were also some spiritual herbs that were very helpful for body tempering and even the primordial spirit. If they could take them all, it would undoubtedly provide a significant boost to both Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's strength. However, it did not seem to be that simple a task to obtain all the spiritual herbs in the garden. That was because they discovered that there seemed to be a powerful array in the herbal garden that blocked them. If they wanted to enter the herbal garden, the first thing they had to do was try to break the array. After observing for a while, Shen Ruyan's expression turned ugly. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan immediately asked, "What's wrong? Is there a problem with this array?" "Yeah." Shen Ruyan nodded. After a while, she said in a deep voice, "If I'm not wrong, the grade of this array has already reached high grade level 5. With the resources we currently have, it's probably impossible to break this array without a few hundred years." A few hundred years. Jiang Chengxuan was also shocked. It would take hundreds of years to break this array. What kind of joke was that? They did not have that much time to waste here, especially when it was unknown when the demonic calamity would erupt. They could not waste too much time here. Buzz. However, at this moment, the golden cloud token that Jiang Chengxuan carried with him shot out another reddish-gold light. The light landed on the herbal garden array in front of him. Then, a large pile of medicinal herbs and a pill furnace suddenly flew out from the array of the medicinal garden. Jiang Chengxuan was quickly enlightened. It was asking him to use these things to successfully refine level 5 pills. Only then would he be allowed entry to obtain everything in that herbal garden. At the same time, it was telling him indirectly that if he couldn't prove his ability, he could only leave with what was in front of him. Either way, it was not a loss for the couple. It had to be said that the medicinal herbs that appeared in front of him were not low grade. Most of them were level 4 herbs. However, there were also 5 or 6 medicinal herbs that had reached level 5. With that said, compared to the things in the herbal garden, what was in front of him was negligible. Fortunately, his current alchemy level was not far from level 5. In addition, with Shen Ruyan's help, it was quite possible to use the herbs in front of him to refine a furnace of level 5 pills. At that thought, Jiang Chengxuan immediately told Shen Ruyan about his speculation. Shen Ruyan's expression improved after hearing that. She first carefully checked the herbs. Then she turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan and said, "Husband, in my opinion with these herbs, The best level 5 pill to refine is the level 5 heart tranquilizing pill. As the name suggested, the heart tranquilizing pill was a medicinal pill that could calm a cultivator down. This kind of medicinal pill was often used at the beginning of seclusion, or when one was preparing to do something relatively important. However, the effect of this pill was not very long. Moreover, after taking it once, it would take a year before he could take a second one. Therefore, its price on the market was not very high. However, because its refinement was relatively simple, it was often the go-to pill for many alchemists when attempting to break through to level 5. At this moment, Shen Ruyan wanted Jiang Chengxuan to improve his alchemy to level 5 by refining the heart tranquilizing pill. Jiang Chengxuan had no objections to Shen Ruyan's suggestion. Soon, the couple discussed the procedure and began to try to refine the heart tranquilizing pill. It had to be said that a level 5 pill was truly difficult to make, even if it was arguably the simplest one, like the heart tranquilizing pill. For Jiang Chengxuan, it was a difficult task. He even failed several times along the way. Fortunately, they had the spare ingredients. There was no need to use the medicinal herbs given to them immediately. Time passed bit by bit. A year later, the furnace in front of Jiang Chengxuan suddenly emitted a refreshing pill fragrance. Shen Ruyan was overjoyed. She knew that her husband was already very close to becoming a level 5 alchemist. He only needed to take another steady step forward to become a level 5 alchemist. Buzz! Jiang Chengxuan did not disappoint Shen Ruyan. As he cast the last pill-forming spell, the last blemish on the surface of the 3 yellow pills in the pill furnace disappeared. A pill fragrance that was even stronger than before wafted out. Rise! At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly reached out and patted the pill furnace in front of him. There was a clang. The lid of the pill furnace opened. Immediately after, 3 yellow pills fell into a jade bottle that Jiang Chengxuan had prepared in advance. It was finally done. A trace of joy flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's heart. At the same time, a system notification suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have become a level 5 alchemist. You have received 3 tenfold pills, 3 nascent condensation grass, and 3 nascent cultivation grass each. The rewards from the system this time could be said to be bountiful. First, it was the 3 tenfold pills. This was a medicinal pill that could instantly increase his combat strength by 10 times. Moreover, not only were there no side effects after consuming the tenfold pill, but it could also last for 10 minutes. In addition, the nascent condensation grass and the nascent cultivation grass were the main ingredients for refining the nascent condensation pill. These kinds of top-notch strategic resources were hard to come by in the outside world. Not to mention that the system rewarded him with 3 stocks at once. If he were to sell them outside or on the market, he would definitely be able to obtain a large number of good things in exchange. Of course, he would be too foolish to do that. After all, there would be many people in the Jiang family who needed it. Buzz! At the same time, the golden cloud token on Jiang Chengxuan shot out a reddish gold light again. The light landed on the herbal garden array in front of him. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the array began to fade away. In a moment, the entire herb garden was open to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Looking at the herb garden with many spiritual herbs, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but feel excited. Without much hesitation, the couple immediately entered and began to plunder the garden. After a while, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had already taken away all the spiritual herbs. At this moment, under their feet, an array pattern suddenly lit up. The 2 of them recognized the pattern. It was the pattern of a teleportation array. They really did not know where it was going to teleport them this time. Buzz! Accompanied by a burst of light, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had completely disappeared. Even with their strength, they still felt a little dizzy from the teleportation. When the dizziness disappeared, the 2 of them suddenly realized that they were standing outside a sutra library. Here, could it be the library of the Golden Furnace sect? At that thought, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were wild with excitement. If this was true, it would be a great turning point for them, and even the entire Jiang family. Buzz! Suddenly, a reddish gold light shot out of the golden cloud, token that Jiang Chengxuan carried with him. Immediately, the interior of the library, which was previously too dim to see clearly, suddenly appeared before the couple's eyes. Rows of jade slips were neatly placed in the library. From cultivation techniques to spells, there was almost everything. Even Shen Ruyan, who was a heavenly lord in her previous life, was impressed. If she could comprehend some of them, it could definitely bring her strength to another level. Apart from that, they also saw the complete inheritance of the Golden Furnace sect regarding the puppet technique. From level 1 puppets to level 5 puppet refinement methods, they were all neatly placed on the shelf. This was a huge fortune that could not be measured by spiritual stones. They had no doubt that if this news were to spread, it would undoubtedly cause a frenzy among all the nascent soul sects in the entire northern border. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were excited for a while before they gradually calmed down. It was only at this moment that they suddenly realized that, although they could see the names of the many jade slips in the library, they could not see the contents of the jade slips at all. If they really wanted to obtain those jade slips, they had to find a way to enter the library. Then the question was, how should they enter the library? According to their divine sense, there seemed to be a very powerful array shielding the library. Its grade was probably even higher than the array in the herb garden. Wait, an array higher than that of the herb garden. One had to know that the array in the herb garden they had just been to had already reached high grade level 5. For the array of the library to be above that, didn't it have to be level 6? Level 6 array. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's expressions turned ugly. The test this place posed couldn't possibly be to break the level 6 array, right? One must know that even if a heavenly lord were to come, it would be very difficult for him to break a level 6 array if his array mastery was not level 6. Even if he wanted to break it with brute force, it would take dozens or hundreds of years. And this was only the case for the most ordinary level 6 array. If it was a slightly stronger level 6 array, the likelihood of breaking it would be far less. What to do? Yang Chengxuan subconsciously looked at Shen Ruyan. Shen Ruyan smiled bitterly and shook her head. If it were in my previous life, I might be able to try to break it. But now, Shen Ruyan shook her head again. Clearly, with her current cultivation, breaking a level 6 array was a mission impossible. Hold on. There seemed to be another way around it. Suddenly, Jiang Chengxuan had an idea. In the next moment, a key suddenly appeared in Jiang Chengxuan's hand. Seeing the key, Shen Ruyan was confused. Husband, this is. Jiang Chengxuan answered with a chuckle. Wife, just watch. If I'm not wrong, this array shouldn't be able to stop us. As he spoke, Jiang Chengxuan took the key and walked towards the library. Buzz. As expected, as soon as he approached the library, a light suddenly lit up. That light blocked Jiang Chengxuan's path. No matter what he did, he could not advance any further. As expected. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan no longer hesitated. He immediately held the key forward. Crack. Something unbelievable happened. Just as Jiang Chengxuan sent the key in his hand forward. In the air, there was a sudden sound that sounded like a lock being opened. In the next moment, the light that was blocking Jiang Chengxuan's path suddenly began to dissipate bit by bit. Even the level 6 array began to dissipate. What? Shen Ruyan was dumbfounded. What kind of treasure was the key in her husband's hand? It could even break a level 6 array so easily. It was too unbelievable. At the same time, the key that was originally in Jiang Chengxuan's hand also began to dissipate after breaking the level 6 array. Jiang Chengxuan felt bad. This was the universal key that the system had rewarded him with back then. It could help him open any restrictions or arrays. And yet it was used just like that. However, on second thought, it was not a loss to use this key here. Although this key might be able to bring him greater benefits if used in the future. However, the future was too far away, and there were too many uncertainties. Moreover, since the system could reward him with such a key back then, it was not at all impossible that the system would reward him another way. As he thought about this, Jiang Chengxuan pulled Shen Ruyan into the library. When they were outside, they could only see a portion of the situation inside the library. Now that they were inside, they saw more. Other than a large number of jade slips that they couldn't see outside, they also saw more than 10 humanoid puppets in the library. There were a total of 12 level 4 puppets, each with combat strength comparable to Golden Core. It was enough to make up for the lack of golden cores in the Jiang family. Of course, that was not the most important thing. What Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan really cared about were the 2 level 5 humanoid puppets. From the looks of it, it seemed to be 30% stronger than the ape puppet they had obtained previously. In total, there were 3 additional nascent soul-level combatants. With them around, the couple could be at ease when away from the Jiang family for a long time. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other and saw surprise in each other's eyes. Without hesitation, they quickly put away everything in the library. Buzz! Just as they finished plundering everything in the library, an extremely powerful teleportation force descended on them again. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were both surprised. Where were they being sent to this time? The treasury vault or? Before they could think further, they suddenly felt their bodies lighten. In the next moment, when they opened their eyes and looked again, their eyes widened slightly. In front of them was a thick fog. Even with their nascent soul divine sense, they could not see through it. This is. The couple looked at each other and thought of the same thing. Could it be that the teleportation directly sent them out of the Golden Furnace sect? The surroundings looked familiar, especially the thick fog. If this wasn't the periphery of the curved sea, where else could it be? They had really been teleported out. Just as this thought flashed through the couple's minds, they suddenly heard a loud bang. Immediately after, the thick fog in front of them began to roll violently. Vaguely, they saw the originally sturdy and tall stone door suddenly begin to collapse, bringing along with it everything inside the sect into the deep sea. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were shocked. They had no clue what was going on. However, they knew that from now on, the Golden Furnace sect would probably cease to exist in this world. They stood there quietly for quite some time, waiting until everything was gone before bowing solemnly in the direction of the Golden Furnace sect.